I think I'm live, but I'm checking the config. Small CPU problem this morning. So I'll be with you in a second. It already seems the first game has finished. Preparing the last minute changes, and we'll be live any second now. We have a good last round for sure. There we go, we're live. So welcome to the final round of the Menorca International, the Menorca Open International, here from Menorca. Your host today, my name is Michael Rahal. I'm an international chess master living in Spain for many years, and this is the final round of the Chess Open Menorca. We had the round programmed with YouTube Creator Studio, but there's been a problem with the connection with my recording program, Split, so there was a small delay. With the bad luck that the first game has already finished, they made a draw in 5 moves. I mean, totally unexpected. And yeah, so that means we already have one game finished, which on the one on the one hand is a pity. On the other hand, it gives us an idea of where the priorities of the players stand with regard to the final classification, the final standard. So let's pick up the standings very quickly. And here you can already see that before the round started, Arjun Erigaisi was leading the tournament with 7 points, followed by a pack of players with 6.5. I can see there 2, 4, 6 for 6 players on 6.5, with Erigaisi the sole leader with 7 points. Now, Erigaisi paired with white against Fedoseev. They have just agreed to a draw, which is a bit surprising for me, because Fedoseev with a win would have been able to surpass Erigaisi. He probably understands that Erigaisi will not give him the opportunity he needs for a win, and probably with a draw he secures second place. However, his tiebreak isn't that spectacular, so he's in for a rude awakening for the second place, because a lot of the six pointers will win. Some of these 6.5ers will win as well, and he'll end up 6th, 7th, or 8th in the standings. It makes me wonder if it wasn't better for him to go for a win, even though he's playing with the black pieces. I don't think that Magnus Carlsen, for example, in this situation, would have agreed to a draw in 5 moves. I'll throw out the question for you. You're following me here. I'll throw out the question, and you can tell me if you think it was a good idea for him it was a good idea to make a draw with the black pieces. With regards to Arjun, it's a bit different. With regards to Arjun, with the draw, Arjun progresses to 7.5, so he is guaranteed first place split, or first place by himself, depending how the rest of the games finishes. He has a reasonable tiebreak, 42. Only Dardha has significantly more than him. So from his point of view, as long as Dardha doesn't win, he will be in a good chance to take first place, even if any of the other players win the last round. So his only worry is Dardha winning the last round. That's the only player that could prove to overcome him quickly in the standings. And Dardha plays white with Chigaev. Chigaev obviously is a very strong player and won't be succumbing easily to the pressure of the game. But I'm sure Dardha will play for a win in this game. I don't think he'll play solidly for a draw. I think he will try and win, because his incentive to win is huge. If he wins, he could very easily take first place, and have a magnificent tournament. Whereas with a draw, he'll be shared third, shared fourth, which is maybe is not what he would be looking for here. The other pairing of the day, Alexenko Warmerdam. So Alexenko dropped a draw in the second or third round, so he's also very incentivized to play for a win and try and get shared first. Warmerdam with black obviously will have to try and hold and try and get a draw. And the other player who's very incentivized for a win is Yuffa, because Yuffa has a very bad tiebreak. He hasn't played on the top boards in any of the matches, so as you can see, he's down the bottom on tiebreak. So if he wins, and depending on how the rest of the results pan out, he could take second or third place after having not such a good tournament, because I think he was dropping. Yeah, he dropped some draws in the early rounds. He's made a big comeback at the end, but look, he's only played against one grandmaster up to now. However, he is black against Aravindh, which a very tough pairing for the last round. You can see he's playing black against Aravindh. The good thing for him is that Aravindh will want to win, so Aravindh will play a more enterprising game. He probably won't play for a draw because he has half a point less. Other very interesting games to follow will be Sosa against Van Forest, both of them playing very enterprising chess. And then we have a list here with some other players who we'll have to follow. Klimkowski, he will be most likely getting a Grandmaster norm. Most likely getting a Grandmaster norm. Klimkowski, I think actually he already has the Grandmaster norm locked up. Let me check where I can find him. Yeah, he needs a draw. So Klimkowski needs a draw to get the Grandmaster norm. And Milosz Szpar also needs a draw for the Grandmaster norm. So these are two players who, getting a draw, would get a Grandmaster norm in principle. Other players who need the norm, Diego Macias, he's down here with 5 points. Let me find him. Here, he needs a win for a Grandmaster norm, although he already has the International Master norm. But Kagan needs a draw for the International Master norm. So that's interesting. Let's see how that one pans out. And also Chao Tong, he's up here somewhere. Also with a draw, he will get an International Master norm. So there's a total of 9 players who can get Grandmaster norms or International Master norms, obviously depending on their result in the last game. So we'll be following these games closely and see if any one of them is able to lock up the norm, which obviously is one of the main objectives of many of these players who come here. And what they're trying to do is get their International Master or Grandmaster norms, as I did many years ago when I was on the circuit trying to become a Grandmaster. I only made it to International Master, but okay, it was different times. It was still very difficult. They say that nowadays it's even more difficult, but it all depends. If some tournaments are much more difficult, some tournaments are slightly more easier. So yeah, we'll see how this works out for the players, and we'll see how this one goes for the players. Okay, I'm going to do something here just for a moment. Okay, so I'm being told that maybe we'll have a chance in getting Erigaisi in here to go over his game from yesterday. So hopefully that will be a real treat for us to get him in here and go over his game from yesterday. Today, obviously, there wasn't much of a game. As you can see, the game ended in a draw very, very fast. This is actually a line that does give way to very solid positions, very, very solid draws. So it was to be expected that Erigaisi would choose one of these options for the game today. Now, obviously, we won't get him in here to analyze the game of yesterday, but if he's able to come along and analyze, we won't ask him to analyze today's game, but if he can come in and analyze yesterday's game, that would be very good, because he does have a chance at winning the tournament. So that would be excellent. So if he comes in, for sure, we'll stop the analysis of today's round and follow the other round. Okay, let's see. You're mentioning that there may be another result. Let's go a bit further down. Yes, we have another result. Milosz Szpar has offered a draw, and Idani Poya has accepted in this position, totally in the opening. And I think, I'm not totally sure, but I think that with this result, Milosz Szpar gets his Grandmaster norm. At least that's what's on my paper. So we might already have a Grandmaster norm by Milosz Szpar, the Polish player, who has just made a draw against Idani Poya. And I'm suspecting that Idani was the one to offer a draw. Maybe Idani is happy to finish with 6.5. He's made many draws in this tournament, so maybe he wasn't feeling well, or he even took a bye on one of the days. So this is another game that has just finished. Last round, there's always many draws. Yeah, he took a bye in the 4th round, and then he has done many draws. 4 wins and 4 draws. So this would be a total of 4 wins and 4 draws. A solid performance by Poya. And of course, Milosz, as you can see here, he has a 26.03 performance before the game, and drawing against a 26.02 will keep that performance. So yes, with the draw, at least bearing into mind his chess results, he has made the draw and will cross 2500 in the next list. So as long as he has if he has some other Grandmaster wins, then he will achieve the Grandmaster title very soon. So for those of you who follow Milosz in his YouTube channel, he was here with us yesterday analyzing his game. That's very good news for him, achieving this Grandmaster norm. His game yesterday was totally spectacular, and of course very lucky on his side also to have the white pieces in the last round, because with the white pieces he can press, whereas if he'd played with the black pieces against Poya, who knows if Poya would have been a bit more aggressive with the white pieces. So always good to repeat colors in the last round. So yes, obviously a very happy Milosz Szpar, who's achieved his Grandmaster norm in the last round, and also crosses 2500 in the live ratings and in the official ratings as well. So we're waiting to see if Erigaizi will come by. He popped in before, but the broadcast wasn't working yet. So hopefully they'll find him and bring him along. And we can talk about his tournament experience here and how his game went. That would be super cool. So hopefully it'll come along. And I think meanwhile, we're going to start looking at some of the other games, because it's not 100% sure that he will come. Okay, so 2 draws already in the first board and in the 8th board. Let's go down a bit more just to see if there's any other games which are finished. No other games are finished, so we can start checking on the other games. Board 2, for example. Now on board 2, we know that Alexenko would like to win this game against Warmerdam, because with a win, Alexenko has good chances of taking shared first place. Of course, if Warmerdam wins, then it's Warmerdam who gets the first place, shared first place. And in case of a draw, they'll all share second and third place and allow Erigaizi to be sole winner of the tournament. Let's see the opening. So it's a Najdorf. Alexenko plays this bishop d3. He already played this in an earlier game, and I think in that game his opponent played g6. But Max Warmerdam goes for the traditional Najdorf e5 break, and a3 is determined to avoid or prevent black to play knight to b4. The thing is, this line is very interesting because putting the bishop on d3 and spending a tempi playing a3 obviously in theory would give black the chance to try and equalize the game by means of d5. This is the way traditionally Najdorf player would equalize their position, playing d5 in the Sicilian. However, computers nowadays have determined that this sort of positions are not so easy to deal with. There's very early pressure against the king in the center. Sometimes there's some tactics with queen to e2, sometimes bishop to g5, and computers are giving small advantages for white in this type of positions. So not everyone wants to go for the early d5 break. I assume that if you can do it, you should try and do it, but maybe not on the first time. Maybe it's better or more prudent to first put your bishop on e7, maybe even castle, and then if you can get d5 in, it must be the move. So he played rook to c8. That doesn't help much to play d5. White plays h3. Now white is spending many tempi here on his opening. I think he wants to go for f4 and is worried about queen b6 check followed by knight to g4. So before playing f4, he goes for h3. And now this would be the moment. If black plays bishop to e7, white will for sure go for f4. He needs to try and get something going, because if not, I don't think white will get any advantage in the opening. But he can try f4 now. He is prepared, and this will give a bit of game for him. Now, of course, black will have the e5 square, but white may achieve the bishop pair at some point. So this would be the last moment to play d5, and actually the computer suggests it's possible. But I suspect that in this position, white could always go with bishop to g5, putting pressure on the pin and putting pressure on the center. That's why in the previous move, I think Warmerdam should have played bishop to e7. I'm not totally sure why he didn't play bishop to e7. The computer suggests f4, but I like to check this variation and see what happens after knight to g4. Yeah, it seems that there's this knight d5 move, which is very dangerous. And if you take, I take, you don't really have many squares for the knight to go to. And here there are several exchange sacrifices that are probably very good. And we open the position. This is the sort of development advantage you can get in these type of positions. Now this looks very, very dangerous. White has an exchange down, but all of his pieces will come out with attack. And look, actually the queen is in danger of being captured by bishop e3. So this would be a decisive advantage. This variation is not forced, but it does give us a certain idea of how the line could go in some instances, some circumstances. So we'll leave this position as it is now. And Warmerdam has went for g6. This is definitely a big surprise. And I would even dare to say that this is possibly a blunder. Because the idea is to play bishop to g7 and castle. Or maybe to play bishop e7 and castle. I'm not totally sure. But normally you would play bishop to g7. The secondary idea is that if white goes knight to g3, we don't have the jump to f5. So from that point of view, it's correct. The only problem is that he's leaving the d6 pawn very weak. Generally, when you play for the dragon, the pawn stays on e7, not on e5. So from that point of view, it's a risky decision. However, Warmerdam thought about 8 minutes, so it's not part of his preparation. It's something he's thought of during the game. And I suppose he's banking on the fact that white can't organize a quick attack on the d6 pawn. So it might work out well for him. Bishop g5, bishop g7, queen d2 would be the normal solution here. And after castling, maybe rook a d1. And this would be the position. Black would play knight to b6, queen to b6, and if need be, rook to d8. I think it's okay for black. I think it's okay. We'll have to see if Kirill Alexenko, as a strong grandmaster, can find a way to take advantage of this g6. My feeling is that it's not totally correct, but after playing around with the moves, it does look that black has enough compensation for his weak d6 pawn. Okay, so we're still waiting for Eddie Geisy to come along. Let's see if they can find him and bring him to say hello. Meanwhile, let's go to another board. This game will leave it at g6. And we can choose the game between Dardha and Chigaev. Now this one is an important game because if Dardha wins, he gets a clear chance to become the winner of the tournament. He does have a very good tiebreak, as you can see here. Let's put the standings of the 8th round. On the standings, we can see that Dardha is the first player with 6.5. He has 43.5 tiebreak. So if he wins, he'll actually have, in principle, better tiebreak than Eddie Geisy, or at least he started the round with a better tiebreak than Eddie Geisy. So clearly it's in his interest to try and win the game today. He has a big incentive to win this game. His opponent Chigaev has a very bad tiebreak, but he's a very strong grandmaster, very strong. So if Daniel overpresses, Chigaev will be happy to take home the point. Remember the game Sarin Chigaev. Sarin won an exchange in the opening. He had a very promising position, but he overpressed, and Chigaev could have won that game. In the end, it was a draw, but he had a clearly winning position, so he has to be careful. Let's see how the game began. d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, bishop to g5. This is the queen's gambit, but bringing the bishop out instead of playing knight to c3. This many times transposes to the main line, but does leave open the option to play knight to d2 in some circumstances. I think the main line he tries to avoid with this variation, he's trying to avoid some Ragozin variations with bishop to b4, pinning the knight. So bishop e7, pawn takes pawn, knight c3. So we've headed into the exchange variation of the queen's gambit. c6, queen to c2. This prevents the line with bishop to f5, castle, e3, h6, bishop to f4. h4 is the other square for the bishop. Against bishop to h4, I'm seeing very often moves such as knight to h5 or knight to e8. These are the two moves I'm seeing quite often, and black is getting good positions. So bishop to f4 is a different line. Of course, black can go for the bishop here, which is what Chigaev does, but now Daniel plays bishop to e5. This is an interesting move. So if you want to capture the bishop on g3 or exchange it for the knight on b8, you have to play f6. And f6, as you can see, weakens tremendously the king side. There could even be some tactics here with moves such as take, and queen g6. I'm not sure if this is working, because black does have queen e8, but even this position, this would be a big mistake, because the knight would be trapped. So this is an idea of what happens when you move too many pawns on the king side. You can end up with a knight out of play, and sometimes even trapped. Of course, this will not happen in the game, because both players are too good for that. But this is the idea, or one of the ideas behind playing bishop to e5. Try and provoke f6. Chigaev develops his knight, hitting the bishop, and Dardha has the option now of retreating the bishop to g3 and allowing it to be captured, or leaving the bishop on e5, and if black captures it at some point, for example something like this, try and play against the knight on h4, maybe with h3, and trying to get g4 in. So although I have a double pawn here, the situation of the knight on h5 is certainly dangerous. It's certainly a bit strange. This might be even theoretical. Let me check for a moment. Let me see the opening theory on this game. There are no games with this position found in the database. Let's drop back a bit. No, it can't be possible. It's hitting a database with few games, because this is a very theoretical position. But chess.com, I think the database of Lichess is slightly better than the database of chess.com with respect to opening explorers. In any case, both players are playing with a very high accuracy, 99.6 and 99.4. So for the moment at least, no mistakes are being made, apparently. And it's Dardha's turn to play. Okay, so we'll check this out later. Are there any tie breaks? Let's check. I don't think so. I think the tie breaks are already in the chess results. Oh, so he went g4 straight away. Oh, that's an interesting move. He's forcing the game now. He's forcing the game. Chigaev played knight takes e5 instantly, and this will be now a very interesting game of attack and defense. White will capture with the knight most probably, because if he captures with the pawn, he will lose the pawn on g5, and black will retreat with his knight, and white does have already a pawn advanced and going for the attack. Black has the two bishops. This will be interesting. This is the type of game that normally never ends in a draw. Either white wins or black wins, and if it's a draw, it's right at the end and after big complications. Took with the pawn. Wow, this is some unbelievable opening preparation, or just win at all costs. But now he's just losing a pawn. Bishop takes g4 is a pawn. True that it does open some lines to the castle king, and the knight is still out of play, but still it's a pawn and the compensation is unclear. But anyway, he's forced to take. Bishop to e2 is practically forced as well, and now I'm long castling and playing rook to g1, and I'm pinning my hopes on the direct attack to the king. Will this be sufficient for an opening advantage? Computer doesn't like it, but neither of them know what the computer says in this position, and for sure Chigaev understands that he has to go for this, but he can't be totally sure that this is going to work. So we'll see. Of course, Dardha is going all in. He wants to win, and he doesn't mind losing this game. But is this the correct strategy to win a game, sacrificing a pawn for the attack? In principle, yes. The computer doesn't like it, but of course we know these players are not playing with computer. So we'll see how this pans out. Okay, let's move on to some other games. Let me check if there's any draws. No draws yet, at least. Okay, there's been a win on one of the broadcast boards, but this is a no-show, forfeit. We will get some no-shows in the last round, because scores haven't been updated yet, because many players took a bye. As you can all see, last round buys, many players decided not to play the last round. Some of them are tired, it's been a double round, and want to take the last day off. I've done this sometimes in tournaments, especially in the tournaments not going too well for me. I've opted to tell the arbiter, look, I'm going to take the last day off, don't pair me, I'm going to go for a walk, or maybe enjoy the beach, or just do something a bit different, get my head off the tournament. And this can happen. Also, sometimes you get draws in the last round because of this. Okay, so we know what's happening on the first three boards. So let's go to the fourth board, where I remind you that Yuffa needs a win with the black pieces to share first. With Chitabaram, with the white pieces, would need a win to try and get into shared second. Aravindh goes for the d5 Sicilian with the knight f6 sideline. Theory says this move is not so good, but it's very tricky. Queen takes d5 is the main move. White plays queen to a4 check, one of the main moves in this line, and queen to b3. He wants to hold on to his pawn. a6, c4, again trying to hold on to the pawn. Knight to e5. Black is playing for piece compensation, For example, he's now threatening maybe bishop to f5 and developing his pieces actively. And also he's certainly slightly hindering the development of white with knight f3. Another idea here for black is always to play e6, sacrificing fully the pawn to get his bishops out and play aggressively. Computer says that there is enough compensation, so we'll check on this game in a while. Let's move on to Sosa van Forest. Both players very solid. Tomas plays knight f3 and b3 for this game, double fianchetto, very solid. Tomas is clearly playing very close to the vest. He wants to swap off a few pieces, and I think that if the game finishes in a draw, he'll be more than happy. But obviously black is fine in this Maroczy position. I generally don't play bishop to f6, and I generally play f6 to protect the pawn. But having played h6, then to play f6 is a bit just too much. But now white can try and drum up some attack on the c5 pawn, which will be the plan now for white. I would think that Tomas will be very content with this position. Now, possible moves for black, of course, bishop e6 followed by b6, maybe knight to b4, hitting on the pawn on d3. Different ideas for black in this position. Board 6, Chopra against Praf Anand. Quite an equal position. Vogel against V Pranand on board 9, another equal position. And on board 10, Pichot against Zuzina. Now Zuzina is the best placed woman for the moment, and I think there's a special prize for the women's for the female classification. So this game obviously is important for her, but also for the other women who are on 5.5 and 5 points, who would like to see Zuzina lose her game so that they can go over them with a win. So for example, here we can see that Zuzina is the best placed woman, female player, but with 5.5, Hamid Wafa, and with 5, Lia Kumargilieva, PV Nandina, Shuvalova, in Jack, quite a few, even Sabrina Vega, many female players with 5 points, and the tiebreak of Zuzina is 34.5. Some of these players with 5 have a good tiebreak. For example, Lia Kurmangaliev has a very good tiebreak. If she wins, she will get probably the first prize for female players. So this is a game which will be in the sights of all the female players with 5 points, who have to win their own game, obviously. So let's check on this game then. Pichot, half a point less, will want to try and win to overcome Zuzina. Spanish with bishop b7. This is called, is it the Arkalansk or the Muller variation? I think it's the Muller variation. but I'm not totally sure. Doesn't help. I don't get any help from the database of chess.com on this. Okay, so obviously rook e1 followed by c3 and d4 are main lines, but Pichot goes for d3, the solid line. Bishop e7 and c4, very aggressive. New ways of playing these Ruy Lopez openings, blocking out his bishop on b3, but generating an attack on the b5 pawn. Take with the bishop, obviously. Castle, knight to c3, d6. No need to play h3 in these positions because there's no bishop to pin. So a3, guaranteeing a retreat for the bishop, but also maybe expanding with b4 later on. Knight to a5, bishop to a2, and c5. Black claims his stake in the center and gets a strong hold for the knight on d4 for future play. Black is fine here. The computer evaluation says white is very slightly better, but just looking at the position, I would never say that white has a big advantage in this position. I think black has a nice, comfortable position. Of course, white, what he could do is play bishop g5, at some point exchange, and try and claim the d5 square for one of his pieces. Also, another plan, which would be very logical, would be to play b4 directly, which is what Pichot has just done. I was going to suggest preparing it with rook to b1, but both moves look interesting. Before black can get a chance to consolidate, white needs to push open and attack. Okay, very good. Let's move on to other games. So Xiong Tao is one of the players with black who gets a Grandmaster norm. So an international master norm if he gets a draw. So he needs to draw here for the international master norm. Let's check this on chess results. Xiong Tao has been playing all tournament up. He has 2484 and for the moment no title. So he's one of these players who wants to miss out on the intermediate titles and go straight to Grandmaster. Unbelievable. Yeah, so I would say that even losing, he has the IM norm locked up. Even losing. Because he has a 25-25 performance. So I think he's already got the norm. Yeah, Grandmaster, 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 Grandmaster. He has more than enough title players, more than enough flags. You need 4 flags. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different flags. He hasn't lost a game yet. Unbelievable performance by Qiao Tong, QD. There must be another Qiao Tong from China, and he's very, very young, only 16 years old. Unbelievable players coming out of the eastern countries, following the steps of their world champion Ding Liden and other major international players. So I reckon that Qiao Tong already has the IM norm locked up, but he won't be able to get to Grandmaster norm. He's too far away from the 2600 barrier. So let's see how he played this game against Grzegorz Nastuda from Poland. Plays the Najdorf with the h5 modern idea to avoid g4. So white sacrifices the pawn on d5, but I seem to remember that this sacrifice was interesting because for the pawn we get the 2 bishops, some pressure on the queen side, some pressure along the file. It was a very interesting sacrifice. Bishop d3, queen c7, rook e1. No direct threats. We're just waiting for black to castle to launch our attack on the king side, or to castle long to launch it on the queen side. Black castles long, c4, take on f6, and bishop e4. Okay, we can already see some part of the compensation. White is playing for the light squares, a pawn down. He might have ideas with rook c1, maybe queen f2 and queen a7. Different ideas here. g3, expelling the knight will be important. However, the computer suggests that there are other ways to go here. Maybe to take on f4 would also be possible. Let's check. Take, take, take. Here he would get back the pawn, but black would try and muster up some play on the dark squares. However, I do think this would be simpler for white and also recovering the pawn. So we'll have to see if Gregor Znazduta, a strong grandmaster, has other ideas in mind. Okay, let's check another game. Aha, there's been another draw. No, it was the same one as before. I'm looking for the games where there's some grandmaster norms in play. Some of the games are not being broadcasted, so we can't really... this is a fun game because Guillermito is playing against Tobias Kohl, and I think that both of them have chances at grandmaster norms. Let me check. Guillermito against, here is Sebastian Guillermito. So Guillermito has 2586 performance. Guillermito has 25,986 performance and plays against a 2467 player. So yes, if he wins, he will cross a 2600 performance, obtaining a grandmaster norm, because he's played against the 3 grandmasters which are needed for the norm. That is clear. His opponent Tobias is already an IM and doesn't seem that he will be able to achieve. Maybe if he wins, he'll get near the grandmaster norm performance, but I don't think so. It seems to me that it's still far away, but I'm not totally sure if Toeb can get a grandmaster norm with a win. Sebastian needs a win because a draw would lower his performance because Tobias has less rating than him. So this will be another interesting game to follow to see if Guillermito is capable of winning and therefore achieving another grandmaster norm. Let's see. For the moment he's played it safe. This is a Chigorin. All these new openings for players such as me, I try to keep track of them, but some of them are just too new for me, and I never get the chance to understand them properly. But what I do understand is the middle game positions, and this middle game position seems to me that after f4 and castle, white has the chances of breaking open on the king side with his 2 bishops. So I would have to give this position as a slightly better for white. He has the chance to open on the queen side, but he also has the chance to castle and open play on the king side, whereas black doesn't really have many chances. I do think I played a4 here. Let's see if the computer suggests a4. Yes, I would play a4 because if I don't, black will play a5 and then I'd have to play a3 and I'd be passive. So best to get in a4 so as to play b5 in the case of a5, and then castle and concentrate my play on the queen side, on the king side. Okay, there's some PGN errors, but they're fixing them. So interesting, Sebastian, he has to win to get his grandmaster norm. I seem to remember he has already 1 or 2 norms, so maybe this is a game for the grandmaster title. So huge pressure for him then. Makar and Krzyzanowski also are playing for. Makar is playing for the norm. Let's see. Makar against Krzyzanowski. So Makar has a 25-47 performance, so he's locked up his IM norm already. Very doubtful that with a win he can get to 2600. So Makar has already got one of his IM norms. Of course, playing with 24-52, it's quite clear that he's a very talented youngster. He's only 17 years old and already scoring the points for his Grandmaster, for his International Master title. And he actually has quite a good position against Krzyzanowski. Playing this reverse Benoni position, exchanging off the knight, and then playing for the white squares. Yeah, this type of position actually plays itself. It's relatively easy to play. Now here, for example, I think black should always play a5 to prevent white expanding on the queen's side. But for some reason, I see some players not doing that. They allow his opponent to expand, and now with b5, the d4 pawn could become weak, and also the long diagonal is better. So I don't really understand that. Now already b5 is at the threat, so black has to defend with the rook. Now white has different ways of increasing the advantage. He can play b5, knight to e7, knight to a5, or knight to b8. The best plan would be to go knight a5 and try and get the knight to c5. But now we hit the pawn on e4, but first we play bishop to h3, knight to c7, and now we can hit the pawn, and this pawn is about to fall. e5 is no longer possible. And if black plays queen to c7 to play e5, I think we can hit the pawn anyway, because e5 is not possible because knight takes e5. So already, if white plays b5, if white goes b5 here, he gets a serious advantage. So I don't understand why Marcin, who obviously is a very strong player, didn't play a5 before. Was there a problem here? No, a5 is the main move according to the computer. Sometimes it's difficult to understand certain moves. They're theoretical, they're standard in the positions, and you expect grandmasters to be able to play them easily and very fast. Let's move on to see some other games. Klekowski or Klimkowski? Klekowski, I think he was another player with chances of a norm. Or was it Klimkowski? Not totally sure. Okay, another no-show on board 25. Andre Ventura Sosa didn't come to play against Alvaro Alonso. I think that if you're not going to play the last round, you should normally say something and not have your opponent win by forfeit, especially when he has a chance to play with the white pieces and finish the tournament with some rating gains. If you don't appear, you're really saying it's a problem for your opponent. Let's get the chess results again. So Alvaro's playing the last round with white. Of course, he'll finish on 6 points, but not very happy because he's lost nearly 8 rating points in the tournament, which is quite a bit for a player who's 24, 562. Losing 8 points in the tournament obviously means not a very good tournament. He could have tried and recovered some of these points in the last round with white, but he doesn't get a chance to play because his opponent doesn't show. And his opponent, did he play yesterday? He's played all the games up to now. So he probably thought, I'll lock up my 5 points, won't go play the last round. He probably notified that he wasn't feeling well or something. This always could happen. But yeah, it's still a no-show. Draw, win? Draw?
Yeah.
Nice. Pepe Cuenca came to see us. I was holding on to some personal objects for him. He told us he did a draw, which is good to finish off the tournament. Yeah. These last round no-shows, I'm seeing them every time more and more. And it's getting to be a bit not cool is the word. The word is not cool. I'm sure there are some no-shows which are justified, but they haven't updated the results yet. I suppose they update after about an hour. But look, guys, all these players here haven't played the last round, but these players have notified, don't pair me tomorrow, I'm not playing. Players with 4 points, with 4 points, with 4, with 2.5, with 4.5, with 4.5. Players with very decent results have decided to take a day off and enjoy the town. I'm completely fine with this. It's their vacation, it's their tournament, and I'm completely fine with someone deciding not to play around. I've done it myself. What I don't like is not saying anything. The tournament pairs you, and when you see your opponent, if it's an opponent which is good for you, you come and play. If it's an opponent which you think is not good for you, you don't play, and your rating doesn't be affected. So for example, obviously if he's ill, then he's ill, and that's always possible, although you don't normally get sick the last round of the tournament, but anything is possible. But many times it's not an illness, you just don't feel like playing and possibly losing some rating points against a higher rated opponent, especially players who do it regularly every last round. Because I mean, it can't be a coincidence that these no-shows nearly are always at the last round of the tournament. I saw this in Alicante as well. In Alicante, the last round, there were several no-shows, and you could always see that there was a possible motive for the no-show. For example, players like 2,300 players, they get paired in the last round against some 1,800 Chinese player who's playing like 2,400. They don't go and play. I don't like playing against underrated players either, but if I play a tournament, I should say this. But of course, they wait until the pairings are published to do the no-show, because they might be paired against some other player. But I don't think that's good. It's bad for the tournament, bad for your opponent. Anyway, that's my rant on no-shows. Okay, so Warmerdam game is progressing well. We left it here. White is starting to put a bit of pressure on the d6 pawn. And still, it's anyone's game here. It's anyone's game. The knight, if pushed back, would probably go to f1, bishop to g5, and then knight e3, hitting on the d5 square. This would be the plan. This would be probably the next moves of Alexenko could go in this direction. Other ideas he have is to play bishop to f1 or bishop to e2 and start hitting on the d6 pawn. Although the computer says black is fine, I think it's an easier position to decide your plans with white. White's plan is very clear. Try to win the d6 pawn. Black's plan is not so clear. Should we attack on the king side? On the queen side? Should we play b5? Should we go d5? Should we play knight d7 and f5? So black's plan is not so clear. White's plan is more clear cut. And that's important when you... Of course, these are very top players and they know and understand the plans. But for us chess fans, it's sometimes more difficult to decide which could be the best plan. Now this game is the most interesting one because white sacrificed the pawn. He wants to try and win the game at all costs. c5, knight f5, d4, opening up the game against the king. Rook g1, hitting the bishop. Bishop f5, queen f5, hitting the knight. Bishop g5, very good move. Very good move. He's attacking the knight, and if the position is open, this bishop will prevent white from castling. It also stops the hit on the knight and also allows for g6. Very good defensive move. And here we're thinking. I have to say that I'm not impressed by this pawn sacrifice by Dardha. I'm not impressed at all. I think it's very risky, and although I understand that it's probably what he has to do, I understand that that's what he wants to do. I still think it's a bit dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. So I'm not totally sure that this is what he should be trying to do in this position. Okay, so I'm going to take my first mini break of the morning. Go and get myself a coffee. And I think I'll leave you with the game between Alexenko and Warmerdam until I get back, and then we'll continue analyzing the game. So don't leave, and we'll see you in a few minutes. And we're back. Just got back from my brief 10-minute break. I got my coffee, which is here. Not as good as the coffee of the cafeteria. This is an outdoor place where they give you here free coffee and drinks with the circle. And as you can see, I'm in the third Menorca Chess Open, something that's really nice. I suggest that you all come. Just to give you a taste of what you are missing here, if you decide to come, here is the organizer's webpage, and you can get an idea of the tournament. This is the venue, you can see it here. Lovely venue, lovely playing hall. So you should definitely try to come. And normally the tournament is sold out about 2 months before the event starts. So I would suggest following on Twitter the Menorca tournament. I'm going to leave you here with the Twitter. Oh, Kramnik again with his chess.com stuff. I'll check it out later on. This is the Open Chess Menorca Twitter. So this is the account, Open Chess Menorca. Yeah, this might be an old one. Yeah, this looks like an old one. Let's see if we can find a new one. Chess Menorca. Yeah, this is the one we need. Yeah, Chess Menorca. Here it is, with 348 followers, 415 who are following, and with news of the tournament with Erigaizi. So try and just follow. If you're a Twitter follower, I would suggest always to have a Twitter account and follow the accounts of the tournaments you might be interested in to go and play. That's what I do generally. I actually have a list with different things which I can follow. So you follow this account, and therefore you will able to see when next year they open the registration up and get in soon, because this is a tournament that sells out quite early. And when I say it sells out, it means it sells out. If you try and get into this tournament a month before it's played, there won't be space for you. And there's more than 250 players outside. But they could put more boards, but they want to make everyone feel comfortable. So they calculate the boards they need, and then they close. And you can go onto the waiting list. Sometimes if you're on the waiting list, you can still get in, but you need someone to fall off the waiting list. So if you want to come to Menorca or these top tournaments in Spain, you really need to come early. You really need to put your name down early. If not, you're going to probably miss out. Okay, so let's check on the games. So Warmerdam played knight to e7. Could be the idea of going for d5 if he feels that there's too much pressure there. Makes sense. And therefore his opponent quickly put the bishop on g5, pinning the two knights to the queen, and therefore making d5 much more difficult. Let's see what happens in any case if d5 would be played. d5 would be a mistake, and the variation would be he takes d5, knight takes d5, and now several interesting moves, but one variation is knight takes d5, queen takes d5, and here is a fun variation. Take, this is computer line, and sacrifice. Take, and now queen to h6. And now things are getting very murky, because we're threatening the bishop, but also checkmate on h7. So only line e4, take on f6, take on d3, and now rook takes d3, and it's going to be very difficult to parry the attack on the queen and the mate. So in fact, you can't take on d3. We have to play a move such as queen to f5, going for the ending. And this is a holdable ending. For the moment, we're a pawn down. We'll get back the pawn on c2 for the h5 pawn, and then we'll get the b2 pawn. This should be able to be a draw for both players. But this is such a long variation, and in these long variations I always call out for the wrong variation, which means if you try to calculate these variations so far away, unless you're a very strong player, it's easy to leave out something in the calculations. You have to be very careful, especially when there's direct attacks to your king. You miss out on an intermediate move and you're dead lost. But the players of this strength can calculate these variations accurately and not miss out on intermediate moves. So that's what they'll be thinking now. Alexenko will be thinking, can my opponent play d5? And Warmerdam, it's his turn, he'll be thinking, is it the moment to play d5 and liquidate to a probable draw? Or is it the moment to play something like queen to b6 and still play for the counter-attack on b2 and to play the rook to d8? Just keep the game going. So that's what he's calculating now. He's been there for a while. Let's see how much time he had before. Doesn't say. It's a pity. I'd like there to be a function where you can see how much time he's been spending on the current move. And I don't think we have that on chess.com. At least if it's there, I can't find it. Let's see. No. It tells you the time he spent on previous move, but not the time he's been spending on this move. That would be something nice to see. Okay, so we'll get back to this game afterwards. Let's progress to the game of Chigaev. We left it here, white long castled, and the game is exactly at this moment. Very, very tricky position. Very, very tricky. The knight can't be captured because the queen is pinned. Also, the pawn can't be captured because the bishop is pinning the king. But at the same time, the knight on h5 could be trapped at any moment with queen to g4. So this is a very, very tricky position. Very tricky. Queen to c8 might be a move. Could be a possible move. Queen to c8, getting out of the pin and preparing the exchange of queen. Let's consider this variation. Queen to c8, queen to c8, rook to c8. How would this end up? How would this end up for both players? Now we have to move the knight, probably to e4. Pawn takes pawn. We take the knight, he takes the pawn. This is not going to end up well for white. Now Dardha is going to be in trouble here. So queen to c8. If Chigaev finds this move, then it's big trouble for white. If he finds this move, if he's able to find this move, he's in big trouble. Let's see what happens if he captures the knight. Capture the queen, capture the pawn, and take back with the rook. Okay, now this would be rook, bishop, and knight. No, rook, knight, and pawn for the queen. This would be interesting. The computer says this is not very good for black. There's not enough compensation, but it will be interesting anyway. Okay, let's move on to other games. So Erigaisi drawed with Fedosiev. The third board, Dardha Chigaev, is this board we've just seen. Let's go on to Tomás Sosa against Jordan Van Forest. Okay, we leave the position here. This was where we left it before. Knight bt2 and black played b6, protecting the pawn. This is a correct move. Knight to e4, bishop to a6. So clearly Forest is targeting the weak d3 pawn. So black moves his knight out of the way, preparing to block with knight to c4. Bishop to e7. There's no longer attack on e5, so he moves the bishop away. Knight to c4. Queen to d7. And now white has the opportunity, if he wants, either to capture the pawn or to increase the pressure with f4. First of all, let's see what happens if he captures the pawn. He wins the pawn, but black unleashes all his potential against the d3 pawn. And this pawn on d3, this looks to be dead meat. Dead meat, carne muerta, as we say in Spanish. This is dead meat. This pawn will not survive the onslaught of all these pieces hitting it, and black will get back the pawn with a good position. So you can't capture the pawn. We can increase the pressure with f4. That's probably Sosa's candidate move. f4, increasing the pressure on the pawn and going for this type of position. But this type of position, although the computer says it's okay, it's reasonable, not everyone likes to play this type of position. And also I think that both Tomás and Forest will be quite happy with this position. Actually, he's just played and he went for rook a d1. So he doesn't want to risk with f4 yet. I have the feeling that Van Forest won't take long in playing rook a d8, increasing the pressure on the pawn and also getting out of the range of the bishop on g2. So I think both players are, they know there's a lot in play. And Sosa yesterday, we saw what he did with Diego Matías. He went all out for the win, and he was losing, then he was winning, then he was losing, then he was winning. Today against Van Forest, who's a much better player, he wants to be a bit more careful and not make any big mistakes. Yeah, rook a d8 I think is the normal move for black in this position. Okay, so let's check the results. Still no official results being published. It is the last round, so maybe there's some rules with regard to publishing results. So if you've come to my stream and you don't understand English, this week I'm being contracted by the Menorca tournament for the stream in English to publish the videos also in English after the tournament. Then you can always go to El Divis, who's playing on the, who's doing the broadcast on the Spanish channel, and also is being published on chess.com, so he gets a lot of traction and you can see his commentary in Spanish. Si habéis venido a mi canal para verme hablar como normalmente en castellano, esta semana el torneo de Menorca me ha contratado para hacer los comentarios en inglés. De ahí que los broadcasts y los vídeos y los tweets y demás están en inglés, puesto que es un tema profesional. Si queréis ver la retransmisión en castellano, tenéis al Divis, David Martínez de chess.com, haciéndolo en su canal Divis TV. Así que podéis ir a verla allá. Okay, so always good to clarify, because normally for those who are listening to me in English, most of my content on my YouTube channel is in Spanish, and I have quite a big Spanish following, but not so many of them understand English. So every now and then I throw in this sentence in Spanish so that they know they can go and see the content in El Divis Televisión. Okay, let's get back to the games. So, Queen e6 was okay as well, but I was expecting more the likes of Rook a d8. Maybe, this is just a supposition, but maybe Forrest understood that he had to get away from the X-ray attack from the Rook. It's hard to say. Maybe some d4 could have been worrying for him, but I don't know. My intuition is that with the queen being attacked by the bishop, any tactics or any opening of the game, the knight would be pinned, and I think that would work better for black. But okay, who am I to say? Rook a d8 was okay. Queen e6 is also more or less reasonable. Now f4 really has to be played. If you don't do something with white soon, black will post his two rooks, get in f5, and start to increase the attack. Also, by protecting the pawn on d3 with rook a d1, white was also trying to hit the pawn on e5 with more strength. So queen e6 does make some sense actually. Okay, so there's been either there's a mistake in broadcast or there's been a turnaround in Maxim's game. So let's see what's happened. Long castle. He did play queen c8. No, but obviously this is a mistake. This can't be. So this is a broadcast error. This is not a mistake. Let's very quickly say PGM mistake in board 3, I think it is. Yep, they have to correct that quickly. This sometimes happens when there's a recapture. The rook that's capturing the queen for some reason touches the square in the middle and it stays there. Or when you capture the queen, the rook stays partially in the square and it's registers on that square. That's why rook b8 has been registered, which obviously doesn't make any sense. The move is rook takes queen. So this has been played. And afterwards, we don't know. So we have to wait and see what the moves are here because this makes no sense at all. They'll correct that soon. Aha! Important. Draw on board 5. Okay, so here the opening surprise of Yuffa has worked. And although he has an extra pawn, Aravindh wasn't understanding the position well for any reason and has offered a draw. This is quite surprising actually because he has 50 minutes against 35. He has an extra pawn, so he can never be worse. He can always give it back and get a draw. But it's weird that he offers the draw. Very weird because he had half a point less than his opponent. For Yuffa, it's a decent result and he finishes on 7 points. Although he does have a bad tiebreak, so that he won't get such a good final position in the standings. So well done Daniil Yuffa, finishing with 7, whereas Aravindh finishes with 6.5. Let's check the performances of both players. So Aravindh finishes with a draw, so he'll be losing maybe 2 points of rating, so not a big deal. A normal tournament, neither good nor neither bad. He's actually a normal tournament for him means a grandmaster norm, although he already is a grandmaster. But that's the idea of the strength of these players. He plays a normal tournament and scores effortlessly a grandmaster norm. Yuffa, he's played at 2673 rating. That's a very good tournament. Very good tournament. Also undefeated, notching up about 7.5 rating points. So very good tournament for Daniil Yuffa, who's increasing his score. Let me check if Daniil is now... Maybe this result might have put him on his highest rating ever. Let's check. He is still quite young. I mean, he's 27. Okay, so let's say he's going to get to 26.15, and I think that this might be his highest rating ever. Yep. And this in Spain leaves him, let's see the Spanish Federation, with 26.15. Now he is on number, he overtakes Salgado, and he could be very near Chigaev and Jaime Santos. So as you can see, they are all fighting for the Olympic spots at the moment. There's a fight for the first place. Seems that David Anton is going through to get it, overtaking Shirov and Vallejo. Pichot clearly will be one of the contenders for the Olympic team. And Jaime Santos, who's of the same age group as Pichot and Chigaev and Yuffa. I didn't know Chigaev was so young. I thought he was older. So he's 28. So what is clear is that with Pichot, Chigaev and Yuffa, there are now three other very strong players, relatively young, who can take over from Miguel Illescas, and eventually also they can take over from Vallejo, who are already getting older in the Olympic team, as with Eduardo Iturrizaga and Pérez Candelario, who I would say, and Alvar, these players I would say are older and already have dropped out of contenders for the Olympic team. You can't really get into the Olympic team anymore unless you're really 26-40, 26-30, because not only because of the Spanish players, but also because of foreigners who come to live in Spain. Okay, good results for both of these players then. And let's see if there's more results slightly further down. Let's see how Faustino Oro's doing. Is he being broadcasted? I can't see the game. Aha. So he's broadcasted. He seems to have got a draw, which is quite surprising against the 2483 rated player. And so soon as well. I mean, this is unbelievable, no? What happened here? Bishop to g2, bishop g5, castle. He took 40 minutes to play queen to d2. No, this looks more like a draw offer with bishop to f6, and then both players have just moved the queen. Doesn't make much sense. He spent 50 minutes here. So let's see if Faustino Oro gets maybe a FIDE master norm, an international master norm with this result. Let's check. He's down here with 4.5. So let's see. He performed 23.76, and with this draw he will go up some points, but he won't get to 24.50, which is the international master norm score. So he'll get behind. He won't get a norm, but his FIDE rating will increase about 20 points. So it's quite a decent tournament for the young kid. He's played against 3 grandmasters, 3 international masters, and 2 women masters. So quite a very good tournament for the kid. And he defeated yesterday a woman grandmaster. He defeated a woman FIDE master, a couple of draws against grandmasters. I think a very good tournament. He's won a lot of experience as well. So I think that although he hasn't achieved the IM norm, he could be quite happy, bearing in mind that he's only 11 years old. He's getting 10 to 11 years old. So good result for Faustino. You can leave me your questions if you want in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them as usual. Or remember to put your questions. Remember, this is the last round. Prize giving is at 3:30 if any of you want to come. Okay, let's check. Let's do a brief check on all the games. So here he played queen to c7, knight to f1, rerouting the knight to e3, knight to h7, hitting the bishop, bishop to h4, just moving back. Approximately equal, still a lot of game here. Third game, Dardha. I think they corrected the PGN. There you go. But that still doesn't make any sense. Why would rook ac8 be a mistake? There's something wrong here. But anyway, knight to d5. And this is a game. I think white is better. Black is better. The PGN is still messed up. But we'll have to try and eventually fix it. But the PGN here is still messed up for some reason, because the position has been corrected, but for some reason the analysis is not correct. Okay, don't pay attention to the bar here, because this position still has the bar with the extra queen. It hasn't been corrected on the board. It might have been corrected on PGN, but not on the board. See if I update and then if it's corrected. Let's change the game and go back. Let's update the page and see if we're lucky. now it's better. Now it's better. Okay, so knight to d5, and now now we can see that black has the upper hand in the game. The attack has disappeared. He has an extra pawn with the option of winning another one. His only main problem is the knight here. The knight here on h5. He has to be careful of that, and also some threats like f4. For example, here's a variation. If he plays pawn takes pawn, he will get hit by a sacrifice. Rook takes bishop, pawn takes, check. Let's say king to h7, take. Let's say he takes back, take. The knight is still trapped, but even this position would be good for black. However, if white gets his rook to the 7th file, then things will be different. So rook to c7 is forced, bishop to c4. Okay, this is better for black. It's a good ending for black, but still a lot of work to be done here to win. But this would be good for black. So if he wants, he could play pawn takes pawn. Alternatively, he has rook d8, hitting the knight. And now, or rook fd, rook cd8 even is better. That way we sidestep a check on e7. And now this is tough, because white would have to play f4, take, take, take. Let's say he takes here, and I think we could just take here, take, and just move the rook out, maybe to c8. And with two extra pawns, there's one extra pawn, but this pawn is very far advanced. Bishop e2, knight to f4. I'm not sure if white will be able to save this position. In any case, he's just played. So let's get back to the game. And he played rook cd8. So he's going for this last variation we just saw. I have to say that I have very good reason to think that Chigaev is going to win this game. And if he wins it, he gets an extra 5 points of rating, which means he will tie for first place. Although Erigaisi will be very happy with Chigaev defeating Dardha. Dardha was his main threat. And he's already gaining nearly 10 points, plus 5 more. He will leave the tournament with 15 points, undefeated, 15 rating points. A fantastic tournament for Maxim Chigaev. Fantastic tournament. Really, really good. This will pump him up to nearly 26-40. So clearly Chigaev going for that 26-50 mark, which would probably guarantee a spot in the Spanish Olympic team. So I can already see Jaime Santos, he might be getting out of the Spanish team, and Yuffa and Chigaev getting in the Spanish team, if they're interested in playing, of course. But they are professional players, so in principle, normally it's going to be played in Budapest in September. I'm hoping to go as one of the collaborators for FIDE, and if not, I think I'll probably even if I don't get a chance to go and work there, I'll take a cheap flight and visit Budapest. I've never been to Budapest. It's one of the countries I'd like to visit. So I think the best option for me is to visit it during the Olympiad and get a chance to go and see the games and have a field day as a spectator, just as a spectator, watching the games, listening to the live commentary, maybe saying hello to a few friends, and then spending the rest of the day visiting the city. Maybe 2 days, maybe a couple of days in Budapest would be cool. So that's my plan for September. This year I'd like to visit a couple of countries. I'd like to go to September to Budapest, that is practically for sure. And I'm considering a trip somewhere in May, somewhere special, somewhere different, and I've never been, possibly to play a chess tournament. I'm looking to see what events are out there, and because when I come to this event, I'm working as a chess commentator, but I also go around the hall and I get the buzz to play. Then when I get home, I don't want to play anymore, but I get the buzz. So I'll be looking at events for May and see if there's any interesting events that I can go and play, or maybe June. May, June would be the idea, and I'm always looking to go to new places. I've been to many events in my life already, so what I'm trying to select now are tournaments in countries which I've never visited before, so I can have the chance to learn a bit more about the food, about the culture, etc. Okay, so there's been a couple of moves in this game. F4 has been played, and black went for rook takes d5, take, and now I'm expecting that he will go for this rook takes e5, although he has other alternatives. But clearly Chigaev, very good chances to win this game, very good chance to win this game, and eventually progress to. So theoretically, the game is won. It's basically a technically win endgame. However, obviously he has to close, and closing is never easy in chess. So let's check some of the other games. Alexenko, the position is as the same as before. I think white is very slightly, the position is theoretically equal, but I think it's slightly easier to play for white. Yuffa has drawn, and now we're going to go see one or two of the games we haven't been watching before. I'm going to check positions, see if there's anything interesting. Okay, let's see this game. This one looks interesting. This is Grandmaster Carlos Daniel Albornoz from Cuba against Yael Sokolovsky, an international master from Israel. So it was e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, take, take, and a6. Bishop to g5, knight b, d7, bishop to c3. We have some drop frames. Let's hope we're good. Queen to c7, g4, b5, a3, rook b8. So when white goes a3 in the Sicilian, it's not normally very good if the rook can go to b8 for b4. It is good if the bishop is already on b7. King b1, bishop to d7, rook e1, castle. Funny, as soon as he plays the rook to e1, then black castles. Bishop to f4. Now he wants to push forward with g5. So e5, it was a piece drop, but this is a sort of tactical sacrifice. g5, knight h5. So if he captures the knight, we capture the knight. No, something wrong here. If he captures the knight, funny, I need to check the computer here. This variation seems very weird. So e5, g5. So if he captures the knight, I'll take back with the queen. Very weird, this. I'm not sure there's full compensation here. I think he could have captured the knight. This is bad because of knight to d5. But, okay, what did he do? He played knight h5. Maybe he could have captured the knight. I'm not totally sure. Take, take. Take. Queen to g2. Bishop takes f6. Maybe queen to e2. And the idea is if he takes here, white takes here. This is what probably black saw. But even so, if he captures one of the rooks, there's no problem. But probably white saw that he could capture here, and if black captures back, then he captures the bishop. But this is totally unclear. This is totally unclear. Here we have pawn takes pawn. It's totally unclear. This might have been a good option for black, but it's a very long line, and therefore it's hard to calculate until the end. In any case, he went knight h5, knight d5, queen d8, knight f5, take, take, takes on f4, takes on e7, and takes on f4 with the pin. Well played by Carlos Albornoz, very well played. He calculated this perfectly. So after all the exchanges, the material is equal, 7 pawns each. There's even a double pawn for white, but black is under pressure on the d file, and especially because of this f6. And if he captures the queen, white infiltrates the rook on the 7th rank. Very well calculated by Albornoz. So he's going to put f6, g6 with the threat queen h4. Take. If he goes h6, then we change gears and we play positionally now with rook d5, rook d1, and these pawns here can prove to be very strong as soon as one of the white's pieces gets into black's position, because those will be mating pawns and also ending pawns for the win. So by capturing, what black pretends to do at some point is to capture this pawn. f5, avoiding, preventing queen h4. Queen g3, now the threat is queen h3. So black has to hit the pawn. but maybe queen f6 would have been better. And now queen to h3 loses the pawn, but white can play maybe rook g1 or even f4. Let's see what he goes for. He plays rook g1, rook f6, hitting the pawn again, so that queen h3 we can capture the pawn. And now white has a very strong move, queen g5. The idea is to play queen h5 and queen h7. Against this move, black's only move is to do check and try and exchange queens. And the variation would be like this. And white would end up with an extra pawn, a strong pawn on g6. Now, I'm not saying this is a win, but I'm saying this is a very, very difficult position to defend for black. Very difficult. I can easily see white winning this position. Extra pawn, more active rooks, weaknesses, and especially this pawn on g6, which allows white different active attacking threats, 7th rank threats. Yeah, although the computer only gives a point of advantage, I would say that in practice this is mostly winning. See if there's any results in. No, still no results, official results being published. Probably waiting for some more games to finish. As I remember, this is the last round of the Minorca tournament. Closing ceremony will be at about 3 o'clock or 3:30. I have my transfer to the airport at 4:15, so I'll be leaving to get my flight at 6:30. Hopefully be at home at about 8 o'clock and be able to rest and get prepared for tomorrow, where I've many things to do. One of them is to prepare the video for ICC, the ICC video recap of the candidates. As you all can be following in the evenings, candidates is shaping up to be very, very interesting. Let me check something very quickly here on social media. Okay, let's see if we can get some more results. So, Warmerdam against Alexenko, equal. Dardha against Chigaev. We know that Chigaev is doing very well in the game. Aravindh, Yuffa, draw. Sosa, Van Forest. We left this game a few moves back. I think we left it around here. And Sosa played here a very aggressive move. I was expecting f4 in several moments, but Sosa played g4. Now g4, the idea is to prevent f5, or at least deter f5, but it does weaken the queen side. And also, white can never play f4 anymore, because when black takes, he'll lose control of the d4 square. So g4, I suspect, is not the best move of the game. Rook a d8, a3, preventing knight to b4, which was a threat now. b5, pushing the knight back. And now knight to b6. Now black should be preparing the double living rooks to hit very hard on the pawn. Other moves here were knight to a5, hitting b3. Could have been interesting. Okay, white played rook to c1, directing his attention now to the c5 pawn, which has been slightly weakened by b5. And black goes c4, opening up the game. Now it's very interesting to see the potential of this bishop on the long diagonal. Now this game is already going to be quite interesting. I'm not sure there's enough pieces for this to work. Let's see. Pawn takes pawn. Pawn takes pawn. Let's say knight takes pawn. So knight takes knight, pawn takes knight is not enough. But here there are very interesting moves like knight a5, of course, taking advantage of the pin here on the c file. And black will get back the pawn with the advantage. What happens if he takes with the pawn? Again, knight to a5, always this move here. Yeah, it seems very good. In the end of the day, this pin is what's hurting here. Advantage for Van Forest. Not much, but already he's got the upper hand in the game after this good move c4. Chopra Pranav. We haven't seen this game yet, so let's go from the start. Italian. Theoretical. Bishop b4 is the other main move here. Bishop to e3. Yeah, I've seen this being played before. Knight e5. More exchanges. Knight g3 hitting the rook, but also to transfer the knight to e4. Yeah, I'd say black's okay here. I say black's fine. And this move might be overextension. Opens up the bishop, but loosens the grip on the e5 square. Knight to b6, heading for this one here. Rook f1, knight to c4, bishop to c1. Okay, it's still a game. Anything can happen. Times are equal. Basically, white is pinning his hopes on an attack on the king side at some point with f6. But these knights on e4 and c4 look very menacing. I would say the position is more or less equal, but I don't know. If I had to choose here, I'd probably enjoy playing with the black pieces more than white. But objectively, the position is more or less equal. Vogel Praf is the other game we haven't seen yet. Okay, normal position, swapping off the bishop, hanging pawns, but the knights are a bit weird. But the position is more or less equal. Very slightly better for white, thanks to the attack, the pressure on the pawns, but nothing tremendously serious. Computer says that this move is bad. But it's hard to see why. Why would this move be bad? Because there was a better move instead of that one. Maybe knight to b4. Attacking here and threatening knight to d3 sometimes. Anyway, knight here is bad. I think he wanted to play knight to e6, or just to overprotect the pawn on d5. Queen to f5. Computer says bishop to a1 is the best move. So I can hardly think that the advantage resides in a move such as bishop to a1. It does get away from the idea of c3, but it doesn't seem to me a strong move. h5 was possible. to continue the attack. Okay, so queen f5 hit the pawn a bit more, provoked this move g6, and now the bishop, the range of the bishop is longer, and I would say that white has the advantage here. This is another major important, because Rowan Vogel, let me check, he's not on the list for norms, but let's check what would happen if he won. Would he get a Grandmaster norm with a win? So he's performing 25.72, and if he wins against the 2600 last round, yeah, I would say, this is interesting. He would get 2600 performance, so he would get the norm from the Grandmaster's point of view, but he's only played with 2 GMs in the tournament. To get a Grandmaster norm, you need to play with 3 GMs at least. So he's missing out on a title player. So he wouldn't get a norm here. Funny, he's played with 1 female player, 2 female players, 3 female players, 4 female players. Here there's a lot of female players here in Menorca. And very good female players as well. So he wants to win, but he'll fall short of the Grandmaster norm because of the title players, not because of the performance. And he still has to win, which is easier said than done. Let's see how Pichot is doing. We left Pichot's game a few moves back. I think we left it around here. He played b4. Knight to c6, hitting the pawn. Knight to d5. Take. Take. The pawn can't be captured because the bishop is lost on b7. Rook b8. Bishop to d2. Queen to b6. Bishop to e3. Knight to d4. Take. Take. Queen to b3. Take. Take. Why couldn't he capture the pawn on b4? Probably because he would lose the pawn on a6. And also afterwards the pawn on d4. Yeah, so the thing is, white is eventually going to capture the pawn on d4. But now it looks like black has a chance for equality. Computer suggested the best move was play g3, not to oppose rooks. Let's see what would happen if he takes the pawn here. What would white do? You can't take on a6 because of the mates on the first rank. So at some point we have to play g3. Let's say we play it now. Now we can try and force the exchange of queens. Let's see what would happen if I exchange queens. I exchange a rook. And I capture your pawn. First I'm going to attack the pawn on b5. You'll defend it. And then this is good for me, because against b4 I have knight c6. Okay, but here black would have d5. That's not an easy move to find. Very difficult move to find. Pawn takes pawn and rook c5. Defending and attacking. This is not an easy move to find. But if he finds it, white does win a pawn. But you can't capture with the rook because you lose your knight. And if you capture with the knight, you lose the pawn on d3. And unbelievably, this could be a draw. So Zuzina, if she finds the correct order of play here, she can get a draw. She needs to capture the pawn or exchange rooks first and then capture the pawn. And material is being simplified, and in the end she might be able to get a draw here. Morning Shiva. Has Erigaisi wrapped up the tournament yet? He's done a draw, and in view of the fact that Dardha is probably going to lose, I think he might be the winner by tiebreak. He came round here, but the stream wasn't ready yet. So hopefully he'll come back in a while and show us yesterday's game. But it all depends on them. We hopefully he'll come around in a while. Okay, scanning for new games. Let's see the game between Volodar Murzin and Santiago Avila Pavis. Accelerated Dragon. Transposing to the Alapin. More or less equal. Black breaks in the center with e5. Of course, the key idea here is if we can capture this pawn. So let's check. Take. Drops the bishop. Clear that's not possible. So the other idea is first to hit the queen. Depending where the queen moves, then we can take. But I think the black would probably knock off the knight here and then protect the pawn somehow. Which is the best way to protect this pawn? Would it be knight to d5 and protect with the bishop, or knight to h5 and protect with the bishop but knight on h5? I would say probably knight to d5. So I think black's fine here, but the computer seems to suggest that white has a very small advantage. It must be because of the pair of bishops, but normally when black has a good center pawn and a good square for the knight, the pair of bishops is not so strong. So that inclines me to go knight h5 and try and get the knight to f4. This would be my strong square for the knight. Okay, this game is quite calm, typical Murzin style. I hardly ever see him in complicated positions, always slow and technical. This one's very interesting. Let's see what's happening here. Vahap Sanal, strong player from Turk, against Adar Tarhan, also another strong player from Turkey. I think Tarhan was one of the players who was in for a norm. Let's check. Vahap Sanal against Tarhan. Yeah, let's see if Tarhan was in for a norm. What does he have to do? So he's performing 21.72, but he's already an IM, so he has no chance at a Grandmaster norm. He has a chance at defeating a very strong player, but he won't get to 2600. So let's see how the game goes. A4, B4, bishop to E3. Black lately always playing this maneuver. Take, A5, B5, C6, pawn takes, rook B1, just picking up the open file, D5, take, bishop B5, more or less equal. I'd even say that black is slightly better here. D4, that's a bit weird, because now there's a clearly weak pawn to be attacked on the C file. This D4, I don't like it much. Hit the queen, bishop back, keep the attack on this pawn here. This is a draw offer, but Sanal doesn't want to draw against his young compatriots. He wants to play for a win. This knight is a problem. Boom, knocks it off. Now the king is weak. Okay, it's all to be played for, but clearly, well, this was an interesting move. The threat was rook takes g6 because of the pin. One pawn up, Gobbled one pawn. White recovered. Bishop to b5. This could be a decisive mistake according to the computer. Queen to f5. Knight to h4. If he exchanges queens, we take with the knight, and we hit the rook and also the pawn and also the mating threats at the bottom. So white played queen g1. The other knight comes in, and this is becoming very, very difficult to defend. Queen g2 is met by rook c1 and rook to f1 mate. So already black in big trouble. He blocked with the rook. Now we're hitting here. Yeah, if this other rook gets into play, white is toast. And the knight protects here, and in some variations can jump here. So it looks like Adar Tahan is toast here. He's going to lose this game, and Vap Sanal will end up the tournament quite well. He hasn't appeared in the first boards, so I don't think he's had a magnificent tournament. So he's actually under 3 points lower. But if he wins this game, he'll end up more or less halfway there. He's had a very regular tournament, nothing special. But he'll end up performing more or less at his perspective. So good on Vahab Sanal, who I had the chance to interview in Baku. Very nice guy. I think he's with Teodora Injak. So a very nice pair, a couple, but I'm not quite sure. I think that's her. Maybe I shouldn't say these things because sometimes I get mixed up with the names of the females, but I think it's Teodora. Vahab, if it's not Teodora, sorry man, but I think it is. Okay, let's see another result. This one's going to go his way for sure. I'm scanning the other games always with attention to see if anything happens. Klimowski has drawn with Audi. Klimkowski was another of the players that had good chances to get to norm, but with a draw, I'm not sure if that's enough with the draw. Let's check. Klimkowski was one of the early leaders of the tournament, you will remember. He started off with 4 out of 4, then 3 draws, and only lost yesterday. So his performance is 26-23. But with this draw, this performance will go down significantly. But will it drop underneath? Will it drop underneath 2600? I'm not sure. It will drop definitely 20 or 30 points because his opponent is rated very weak. It's funny because look at the tournament he's played, a magnificent tournament. But he might still fall short of the Grandmaster norm. Here it says that he needs 6.5. No, he needs 6. According to my sheet, he would have got the norm. But it's a provisional sheet, so I'm not totally sure. Kartik Venkataram won, so let's check out this game. This could be a cool game to see. So let's see how this goes. D4, C4, knight F3, B6, A3, knight C3. Take castle, rook D1. Knight d2, bishop f6, bishop to c4, knight e5, bishop to e2, and this seems to be a possible mistake because of knight to b1. Wow, this is a weird move. Knight to b1. Okay, protects the queen, protects the bishop. Queen protects the bishop here. Still a very weird move, but maybe he's just consolidating the extra pawn. Castle. Yeah, the extra pawn won't find enough compensation. Here he couldn't exchange because of the pin on the queen. But now he is threatening. Bishop takes bishop. Here he exchanged bishops. He does double the pawn, but it's still an extra pawn. Queen c2, take the second pawn. Rook d7. If he captures here, I think the capture would be here. No, he would capture the rook straight away. That would be bad. So he played rook d7. Bishop b5, hitting the rook. Rook e7. This apparently is the bad move. Apparently black has a move here which is quite difficult to see, which is knight to e5. This is a tricky one to see. Very tricky. The idea is, in the case of bishop takes d7, we come in with knight takes f3, rook takes f3, queen takes b1 check. Okay, but even though, of course, if the king goes on to one of these two squares, then we get back a pawn with bishop takes e4. Or queen takes e4 even. And in the case of king f2, queen takes b2, and there's a perpetual check. Very difficult to see. And what happens if rook f1? Queen takes e4. Okay, threatening mate. But king f2, you can't go in here, but you go in here. Here. I mean, even if black could see this and think that he might have a perpetual, it's nearly impossible to calculate it till the end. So, and of course you're giving up the rook. So it's understandable that she didn't go for this variation. However, if she thought she was going to lose this position with 2 pawns down, maybe it was worth a try. Because, I mean, here you're just 2 pawns down. Yeah, 2 pawns down, exchanges some pieces, and wins the game. Yeah, sometimes it's tricky because you might suspect that the variation is interesting. You can't calculate it until the end, so you're unsure. You don't have the computer to tell you what to do. So you go for the passive variation. Although you know you're going to be a pawn or 2 pawns down in the ending, you still have hopes that you will draw the game. In those cases, against a strong player, maybe it's better to go for the other variation, the risky variation. And if you draw, you draw, and if you made a calculation mistake, you'll probably lose the game anyway if you had gone for the ending. But it's hard to say. Very hard to say, because if you do that and you lose and you see the ending with the pawn down was a draw, then you get messed up with your head. So that's why chess is so tough. So many different options, so many different decisions, and it's very easy to make a mistake against any level of player. Okay, so I'm going to take my second mini break, and I'll be back in 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll get on to the last part of the round where the players are in time trouble and things get really interesting. I'm going to leave you with the game between between Alexenko and Warmerdam, and this is the first one we'll check when I come back. And we're back again for what will be the last part of the broadcast and of the tournament. So I think it's about 1 hour till we see the end of the event. And in principle, my idea is to stay to see the end of the most important games. I went for a walk throughout the hall now, the venue, and I obviously stayed to look at the game between Chigaev and Dardha. And Dardha was on the verge of resigning here. He's in this position here. This was the position I just saw when I was there. And Dardha he went to take the bishop to capture the knight, then he stopped. Chigaev was looking at him like sort of saying, you're not in good shape here. The thing is, he doesn't want to capture the bishop for the knight, because that would allow his opponent to have a rook on the 7th, the other rook penetrating on the 7th, wrapping up this pawn, and this is an easy technical win for a player of the strength of Chigaev in principle. However, there's no other solution, because the rook has to stay defending the bishop. If he goes to c3, there's a discovered check and you eat the rook. If he goes to d3 or b3, any of the two, then again a check here gives the double and it's protected by the rook, so we win the exchange. So the only way he can go is to a3. But if he goes to a3, he actually takes away the only escape square of the king. So I'm suspecting that this check could be very harmful, very damaging, because he has to go back, and then we check, for example. I have to see where is the best way to check, but probably on b3, and against king c2 already we can take the bishop, and all these endings are going to be very good for me. Well, they're winning, aren't they? Just take here, and take here, and goodbye. So he had no choice but to capture the knight here, which he did. And now they're in this position. He gave a check and protected this pawn. Chigaev is now thinking what to do with this king. He can drop back. I think that's okay. But also king to g5 looks quite active. He went to king g7, which is probably the safest. And basically now he's threatening rook to b2 with attack on h2 and on b2. I'm not really sure how can black protect from this. It's unclear to me the way. He has another idea, which is rook to f4, hitting this pawn, followed by rook to b4, protected by the pawn on a5. This is also a crushing situation. I think white's best chance would be to go for the pawn on a7, at least try it, abandon hopes of the pawn on a7, h2, and get some sort of 2 against 0, whereas 1 against 1, 2 against 1 on the queen side. But even this must be clearly lost. So I'm thinking that Dardha is now trying to get a draw. I mean, he's forgotten about winning for a long time. So this is interesting from a psychological point of view. Dardha had to win the tournament, although with draw he would have got second place. Chigaev doesn't have any tiebreak, and a win is the only way he's going to get a good score, but he's playing with black. So instead of risking himself, he played something very solid and let his opponent make a risky move with this g4 that he played. So that may be something to remember for the future when you're in a position where you would like to win, but you're playing with black against a good player. Maybe just to play solid and let the other player lash out and go and hang himself with some very risky play. Something to think about. Okay, let's check on the other games. This one is very likely going to be a win for Chigaev, but now he has to just make the correct decision. Is it rook h2? Is it a5? I think both moves should be winning, but the computer suggests that a5, rook b7, and rook f4 is the cleanest win. That's the suggestion of the computer. But I think if I were playing with black here, I would go for rook f2. I think he would defend the pawn on b3. But this would still be, yeah, it's not totally clear. The computer actually jumps up and down here and doesn't really understand which is the best way to try and win. So it's not totally clear which is the best way here. I think I would go rook f2. I think I'd go rook f2. I'm just going to turn off the computer bar because it makes me a bit, the ups and downs of the computer doesn't allow me to concentrate properly on the moves that could be played. So let's say I was here with black. What would I do if I was black in this position? Let me turn the board around as well. There you go. What would I do as black in this position? So I have an extra pawn. He's attacking my pawn on a7. So when I get my rook to f2, either the h2 pawn or the b2 pawn would be mine. But if I do it now, he will probably protect the b3 pawn, give me the pawn on h2, and capture my pawn on a7, hitting the pawn on b6. This doesn't seem the best way to win. And if I play rook to f2 and he plays rook to b3, if I play a5 now, then he gets my pawn free. So this doesn't seem the best way to win. So rook to f2 doesn't seem the best way to proceed. However, if I play a5 straight away, he can also play, he can't play rook to b3 now because my pawn is protected by the rook. And that way I could take the h2 pawn free of charge. So he has to do a move here to attack something else, probably the b7 pawn. And this is the key position. This is the key position. What to play now? Should I play rook to f2 or rook to f4, hitting the pawn here, and planning to protect with rook to b4? So there's been a move. Let's see what he did. He played a5, and his opponents quickly played rook to b7. Okay, that seems sensible. And now the key idea is if Chigaev has to play rook to f4. Let's see what would happen here. Rook to f4. Threatening rook to b4. Let's say he takes the pawn. I take this pawn here. He advances here. I go back. Okay, this looks okay because now I can play a4 check. He would play rook here. And now let me check this variation. Here, 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 and here. And now something like this. Are my winning chances good here with black? Yes. Yes, my winning chances are very, very good. Because I have an extra pawn which can advance. And his king is cut off on the side of the board. And he can never offer an exchange of rooks because I'll exchange and then win with my extra pawn on the king side. So this is probably the way to go. The way to go is to play rook to f4. However, he does have king to a3 here. I would play rook to f4, and now he has several moves. He can play rook to f3, threatening to come in here. Now I have to check this variation. Take, take, check, check, and I think I win here with this mate in my next move. Also, he can play rook to b3. And here I think I will play take. And now if he takes here, this is complicated because if he takes the pawn, I take the pawn with check, but he can play king to b3. And now I'm going to lose this pawn, and the a pawn would be very dangerous. This would be risky for me. So I can't really do this. I would probably have to do this, threatening to mate. And when he takes, take with the rook and progress here. My rook defends, cuts off the king, and now I'm progressing with g5, king g6, f5, f4. This is a win as well. So these are the types of positions that Chigaev has to find. Not swap off pawns, but consolidate with the rook on b4. This is the position where he's going to find a win nearly for sure. Because my rook is active, controls the situation, and I can progress with my pawns on the king side. Okay, so let's get back to this in a while. He still hasn't played, but rook to f4 looks like the move we probably will be seeing on the board. So Warmerdam, still a big fight here against Alexenko. Is this the position? Yeah, this is the position. Let's see, 4 pawns, 6 pawns against 6 pawns. This seems very, very equal. Very, very equal. I don't know. I would say this position more as equal. If I had to choose a side, I would personally choose white because I like playing the Milosz bind. But even if I was white, I'd be worried that this knight on d4 could be very strong. And I'd also be worried about my bishop on f1, which is slowly getting blocked in by my pieces. So I'd probably choose white, but I wouldn't be extremely happy. But I would probably choose white anyway. And I'd also be worried about the position idea, g5, h4, and knight h5, knight f4. But that's not so easy to do. So yes, I would take white because of I would play probably b3, rook d1, and if a knight falls on d4, I probably couldn't resist sacrificing the exchange. So it would be something like this. Let's say rook to b8, rook to d1, knight to d4, and knowing myself, I'd probably end up doing this sort of sacrifice and playing with a pawn plus the knight, the queen on d2, maybe some knight on d5 at some point, and this would be my way of playing. But I can't help myself when I see exchange sacrifices. Other more solid players would probably protect the pawn on b1, and when the knight comes here, play knight to c2 and chop off the knight without sacrificing material, with again an equal position. So for the moment, Alexenko Warmerdam, I think it's more or less equal, and most probably this could end in a draw. But I have to insist that they've only got 12 minutes left. They're on move 30 and all the pieces are on the board. So anything could happen here actually. It's not one of those simple positions where you just play any move and the draw comes by itself. Okay, these are the two main games, so we'll focus on these two games. But let's check the score list and see if anything has happened on the other games. By the way, Chigaev did play rook to f4, so that was a good move by Chigaev. Okay, this is the game between Sosa and Van Forest. So they've reached an endgame with a rook and a bishop each, 4 pawns each. I would say that there's a minimal advantage for black because he does have the pass pawn, but most probably this game will end in a draw. A draw could actually be forced if he plays king to e2. Take, 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 check. Here, here. I think this is already they could already sign and draw in this position. I mean, king f6, rook e1, and I don't really think there's chances to win this endgame. This would just be a draw. So I'd say that Sosa against Van Forest will finish in a draw. Chopra, Pravav, Anand. Chopra seems to be winning in this position. Let's check. So it's 4 pawns against 3. Only 1 extra pawn. But it's white to play here. Is there a combination? Is there anything that can be decisive? Or it's just the extra pawn and that's it? Maybe it's more than an extra pawn. Maybe white has a chance to play f6. Pawn takes pawn. Rook takes pawn. I'm wondering if this could be a chance to try and get some sort of checkmate in. And that's why the computer says white is totally winning. Because just for a pawn, I doubt it. But this seems very dangerous. This seems very dangerous. So maybe it's more than the fact that he has an extra pawn. It's the fact that if knight takes pawn here, bishop to h6 threatens checkmate, rook to a8 is forced. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a mate here with so many pieces around black's king. I need a moment to think, but I wouldn't be surprised at all. This move here, for example, threatens check. This one would with the rook. This one would mate. All these variations win for white. And then this one here threatens mate. Yeah, I think Chopra has the opportunity with f6 to go for a mating attack. I'm not totally sure. That's something he has to calculate properly. But it seems to me that there is a very good chance of him if he goes f6. So Chopra on the way to win. Vogel against the other Pranav also has a very promising position. Here he has an extra pawn, but more importantly, the black king could easily die in the middle of the board against the combined attack of the queen, bishop and rook. Also Pranav, only 1 minute left. So Pranav 2600 is about to lose against a 2500 player. This would be a good, surprising result for the last round. Pichot against Zuzina, still a small advantage, but most probably draw. And another game which is going towards a good ending would be this one here. Ah, Miguel. We have an invited player. How are you, Miguel?
Well, not so well because I have a problem with my voice.
You're losing your voice.
Yeah. Okay, it's a long tournament.
We're getting old, Miguel. We're getting old. You like my t-shirt?
Okay. Yeah. Did Arigaisi come here? No.
No. He didn't appear. No. He didn't
well,
go.
He went for a rest.
He went for a rest. Yes.
Well deserved.
It's been a tough tournament for him. Yeah.
What, you are checking?
Yeah, I'm looking at the games, and I enjoy a lot the game of Maxim Chigaev.
Yeah.
Have you analysed this game with
He played rook
e4? Rook f4, I thought was the move. He played rook e4. Okay.
King a3.
King a3.
And now he's thinking.
Yeah. I thought the best way to win was rook f4, but I wasn't sure. To transfer the rook to b4. I thought that was the most probable way to win.
Maybe rook takes b6.
Yeah. Then I analysed the line here with the rook takes pawn, and I wasn't totally sure of this position.
King b3.
King b3, I thought it wasn't so good because of this move here. But I wasn't totally sure either, so...
I'm not sure.
I wasn't sure. I'm
not sure that that black wants to trade so many pawns, no? But maybe yes.
I thought that after this trade, he would try and prevent. Sorry, king to c3. He would try to prevent something like this, and I was wondering if this would be enough to win the game, cutting the king off. But I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
It was just something I was pondering. So he went with the other rook.
Yeah. Of course, I
think to keep the protection on this pawn.
Black wants to trade one rook, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because with only one rook, then the black king can get active, and that would be just pushing the f pawn.
Yeah.
But with two rooks, there is always a danger of. This was the game.
This was the game, and I think
So
he'll
they
take.
are going to get something very similar. Now rook b4.
Now he can change one rook,
Yeah.
bring the rook over, play a4, and then start to progress with his pawns. This looks very good for black.
I think should be winning. Yeah. Yeah.
It should be
Now,
winning.
rook b4, take, king c3, and then maybe simply f5, something like that.
Did you see? Maybe even with the pawn.
Yes. Also
Maybe
possible.
even with the pawn.
Yeah.
And then keep the rook in this active square, and more or less keep the king at bay.
Yeah, but
But okay, both could be okay.
yeah, both should be winning.
Difficult to say which is the best.
Yeah,
Did you
both
see
should
how
be
this game progressed in the opening?
No, I didn't.
Oh, but this is interesting then.
Yeah.
So Daniel Dardha has the best tiebreak of everyone.
Uh-huh.
So if he wins, he will catch Eddie Gaisi and probably win by tiebreak.
Mm-hmm.
He has like 2 points more than him.
Yeah,
So but Chigaev doesn't have a good tiebreak.
you're right.
So Daniel used a very risky strategy. Look what happened in the opening. So here more or less normal. Nothing special is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And now look at this. He goes here, bishop to e5. This is,
Yeah.
I seem to remember this is theoretical. And now he goes g4. It's risky. But look what happens now. Chigaev takes the bishop. And now if he takes with the knight,
Which is the most natural.
natural, goes back. And now maybe rook g1. And this is a game.
Yeah,
This is a game.
it looks not so bad for,
and,
for white.
and it could be interesting if you have to win.
Yeah,
But he took with the pawn.
this is very strange. Allowing bishop g4, and what is the point? Bishop
There
e2 and
Well, he played here knight to d4, but the other variation was bishop to e2,
yeah,
and it's unclear where exactly the point is. This position is still a game. I mean, it's a pawn down. I don't think there's a lot of compensation, but okay, you could argue the open file, maybe the knight a bit displaced,
yeah, long castle, rook g1.
but he
yeah.
did this,
Yes.
and now c5,
Yeah, now this.
knight f5,
Now this already bad.
d4,
Yeah. This position I saw, I thought black is much
and
better.
bishop g5. This is I enjoyed this move, and
Yeah.
black is much better. So Dardha went all out to win the game,
Yeah.
and maybe just overstepped against a very strong
Yeah,
player.
probably this was not the best strategy. I mean,
I thought Chigaev was an older player, but I saw him before. I checked his age. He's actually quite young, only 26 or
but
27.
what happened now with the bar?
Sometimes it's going wrong.
Ah, yeah, I understand.
There's already been trouble in this game with the board. So let's see.
Yeah, he took with the rook, by the way, on before.
So this is actually the game.
Yeah.
Look,
He played.
I mean, this is
No,
why,
of course,
the,
yeah,
the
yeah.
computer is. They need to correct the moves,
Yeah, but okay, it's rook before.
but it's clear it's rook b4.
Yeah.
So maybe this is not the correct position, but it's rook b4.
Maybe this is the right position, but black to play.
But black to
Most
play,
probably,
maybe.
yeah.
They'll probably fix it. So this is most probably a
Yeah,
win.
yeah. Should I have winning? Yeah.
Would you say this is a 100% win?
Yes, yes, for sure.
Technically.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is.
He might make a mistake and not win, but
No, it's very
in
simple.
principle, it's win,
Yeah,
no?
it's very simple. Yeah, because f5 and the pawn is very fast.
The good thing about taking with the rook is that now it's not so easy for him to run over with the king. It's better with the rook.
I think so.
He has to
because-
play b3, bring the king underneath.
No, he needs to activate the rook to try to attack a5.
Oh,
Rook d3, d5.
okay.
But what I mean is that let's say, okay, can you? But here the problem is that it is black.
Okay, but let's say black plays, for example.
No, but it is black to play. But
Okay, let's say he plays f6, and
yeah, this is the problem. You cannot.
Oh.
You have to lose a tempo.
let's say rook g3,
Yeah. F5.
f5,
Yeah.
Rook d3.
Yeah, this I believe it's.
but
this
we
is
can
the
put
way.
the pawn on a4 as well
Yeah,
when it's
rook
attacked.
rook e4.
Rook g or e4, yeah.
Or rook h4. I
Or rook
mean,
h4.
up to-
Maybe rook h4 actually. Why not?
Yeah.
And if he attacks this pawn,
Then a4.
we protect it.
And the black has easy progress. You know, very simple.
Very difficult. Very
Yeah,
difficult.
that's completely winning.
Even this one, these two against b,
Yeah.
I think would also be winning for black, most probably.
Yeah, there are many ways to win this game.
You can
I
even
thought.
sacrifice the rook at
Yeah.
the end and
In
win
fact,
with 2
in this
pawns.
previous position, I mean, you could also play here f4 if you want. I
We
mean,
play f4 straight away.
f4, rook d5, and f3.
Wow.
even.
And-
I mean,
and stuck the rook behind.
There are many ways to win this. No, it's completely winning.
So this
Because
would
it's
be a big
it's
surprise.
Pawn up, but and better structure. I mean.
Better an active rook.
Yeah, H
everything.
pawn.
everything is working.
The pawn on h2 is not worth 1 unit.
Yeah.
It's maybe.
If the pawn was on g2 and we could hold, maybe there would be some chances.
It's a big difference. Yeah. Huge difference. Yeah. And what about the other game on the top?
And the other game on the top is the game between. This is a very interesting
Alexenko,
game, because I've been following this game. I was saying just before when this is the
only
position.
5 minutes left.
Yeah. So what I was suggesting is this is a very complex position with 10 against 5, all the pieces on the board.
But looks very good for black.
But anything could still happen here.
Yeah, but black got full control on dark squares, you know.
Yeah.
The bishop on f1 is out full. This is very typical from some Sveshnikov.
It came from a dragon knight of weird thing, but it's ended up in a Sveshnikov. Sveshnikov.
Yeah, I don't like these new ideas which Alexenko is playing in this tournament with bishop d3 against the Sicilian.
The a3 and h3.
He's playing bishop to d3, and I think it's.
I checked it with the computer, and the computer suggests these moves.
Yeah.
But with like 020, 030 evaluations.
But later it's difficult to play.
But later it's difficult to play.
Yeah.
And even he is a very strong grandmaster.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there must be something very, very, very concrete, or simply the depth factor of the computer that just gives it a small advantage. But at the end, it's.
This is the actual position.
This is the actual position. Let me check.
No, I mean he's in trouble. You know?
I turned off the computer.
Yeah, better.
Because it was jumping all over the place and I was not understanding anything. No?
For our mental health.
Yeah. If I get stuck
and
I need something to be suggested, then I can turn it on.
No, he's in big trouble because now b3 and a4 under attack.
Let's see he exchanges.
So he needs to take.
He will probably take with the pawn.
And black can take with both. But if he takes with the pawn, then I believe he's better. White then probably needs to trade all rooks, but so he's still worst. I mean, or rook d5.
No, this shouldn't be working. Shouldn't be working. Let's say he changes everything.
Yeah, knight takes because
the orphan bishop. What you were saying before. And now the queen is invading.
Yeah, this is a big suffering.
But it's still not easy.
I don't know why not easy.
Well, you have to protect the pawn on c5
yeah,
before
but
invading.
Knight coming to d4.
Oh, okay. So we bring the knight to d4.
Yeah, and then we're going to have a pass pawn.
And then we can start thinking of bringing our king, maybe invading with the queen.
The bishop on f1 is so bad, you know.
So bad. Maybe we have to sacrifice the exchange then.
I don't. But rook d5. The problem is that bishop takes knight d4, and it's not enough. I think.
This is bad as well.
Yeah.
We'd have to play something like no.
There are some open files, you know. It's difficult to believe.
Very difficult.
No, it has a tough challenge now. He's just 4 minutes left.
I'm not sure if he's moved. He's just moved. Let's check his move. He has played knight takes.
Yeah.
Warmerdam has played pawn takes. Rook takes. Let's follow this game for a moment.
Yeah. Black could also take with a knight here, because sometimes to keep rooks can be in black's favor.
Take with the knight, then come back and stick the knight on d4.
Yeah.
And at some point when it's exchanged, he has the rook as well.
But I think then rook a1, that would be important move. Knight d8, rook a1.
Maybe then here,
and then
Alexenko has to play rook a1 then.
Yeah, probably. But then the d file is a problem, no?
Yeah, so the queen would drop back maybe to b6 to keep this pawn protected. What could we do here?
Black is better, but...
Could we play knight e3 and knight d5?
Let's try.
Let's try this.
Knight d3, knight d4.
Knight d4.
Let's say knight d5.
Is there an idea here with queen to g3, hitting this pawn?
To play knight f5? Or
well, at least to see how he defends it, and then maybe I can bring my rook in somewhere, depending how he defends the pawn.
Yeah, queen g3, queen c7 maybe.
But then I might have rook a6.
Then knight takes b3.
Knight takes b3. Maybe knight... I'm trying to get something working here. He could play this as well, but let's say he does this. I do this. He does this. And then I go all in here with knight f5. Would this give me anything, or I'm just losing here?
King h7 maybe.
King h7. I have to follow up with this move for sure.
Ah, this I didn't see.
Here I might have something. I might have nothing, but...
yeah, bishop takes, and then the bishop going to d3. Yeah,
I might have something here.
Yeah, maybe he should try some active play, but
this is no. I think he should just play.
I
f6.
have the feeling that black.
I agree.
Yeah, should have some move.
And he has 11 minutes to find it.
Yeah.
But I think this is better than trading. Let's see what he did. Trade. Oh, he hasn't played yet. No. But he seems to be playing. Oh, he traded. Okay.
Yeah, in general, it looks more natural to trade.
Okay. When you're in trouble, Miguel, should it be better to trade pieces and try and hold the ending, or to keep pieces and try and go for tactics?
Okay, in this case, I mean, rook a1, you get the a file, but it looks more valuable than d file.
The d file.
I think so.
So better
in general,
to change
you
and try and
want
hold.
to trade pieces. I mean, if you want to make a draw,
and try and hold.
You want to trade everything.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Especially this bishop on f1. But okay, one question is, for example, what happens if we trade now queens? Who is winning? Is it winning? This is a good question.
If the queen's dropped off here, I think white could hold the draw.
You think so?
I think. Difficult, but if I could get my bishop to c2 or to d1 and my knight on e3, maybe as there's no clear entry path for the king, I might be able to get a draw. But
well, you know, when
the bishop ending is also possibly a draw.
There are important moves to do as soon as possible here, h4 for both sides. You know?
Yeah. If black gets h4 in, that's very good for him.
Yeah, if we trade queens and black plays h4, then
he
it's
gets this,
really...
He gets all this passageway, all the f4 square for the knight.
That's why probably Alexenko needs to play h4 as soon as possible. But
should he play it now?
I don't know now.
I mean, I'm seeing this queen coming in here.
Yeah.
And I'm very worried here.
No, 93 looks natural. Okay, also 91 maybe. What do you think about 91?
To put the knight on d3 and hit this pawn, okay?
I think so. This could make some sense.
Let's see this here.
Yeah, because now how to...
Oh, now it's a double attack.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so let's say this goes here.
Okay, but then knight takes e5.
Here.
Some play here.
Some play, but...
Yeah, this pawn is very dangerous.
It is a passed pawn.
But maybe 4 f5, I don't know. Here, at least some complications, you know. Yeah, I think he should probably try 91, yeah.
Fighting for
the dark squares, yeah.
This is getting interesting, this
91,
game.
Yeah. Because, okay, in the long term, b3 is lost. I have the feeling that black can start to attack it with, I mean, can you imagine?
With the queen and the knight.
Yeah, we can maybe go with the queen on b2, knight on c1, but doesn't, okay, it's not gonna hold it.
Yeah, I understand. No, he's played.
So what did he do? f4. Okay,
f4. This is in your spirit. Maybe he's trying to find some perpetual as well there.
Yes. Well, I don't see there is any perpetual king h7, but he's trying to get active.
This is in your spirit.
Yeah, when the black queen is still on a5, which is a bit out of play.
So now he threatens f5, so probably black will take. Or do you think he'll play f6?
Well, I don't know. Difficult to say.
Or maybe even knight c6.
Probably after pawn f4, queen f4, white wants to make knight e3. The beauty prize. We have to discuss.
Yeah.
I think Divis was going to make a poll on the internet. Maybe I go with Divis and we will
do the poll there. Yeah. I sent my suggestions, but you can do the poll.
Okay.
Okay, Miguel, take care of your voice.
You so much. Yeah. Okay, see you, man.
See you later. Miguel Illescas. Did you see? He was so fast in understanding which trades you had to do in this position. But I wasn't so far off in my evaluations as well, so that's good. So Max took, he took back, and now it's time. Okay, so I still think this is better for black, but now I'm starting to see some survival options for white. At some point, we might lose the b3 pawn, but still get the chance to do some perpetual check, or I've seen positions like this end up being draws. But of course, he has to try and draw now. I don't think Kirill Alexenko is looking for a win anymore. So they're deciding now the beauty prize of the tournament. we're getting to the final parts of the round. The tournament is already wrapping up, and I'm enjoying these last games, these last fighting games. Let's see what Maxeyev Chigayev is doing here. So he played rook takes b4, b3, f5, rook g3, rook e4, rook d3, f4. As you can see, it's very difficult for white to be able to capture this pawn. Is nearly impossible, because rook d5, f4, rook takes f5, f2 is already winning. I'm going to show you this variation. He has to drop back, and then we will win with rook to e1. So maybe you can check, but checks generally finish very fast, and when the check's finished, the game is over. So Dardha is in a very dire situation, and if this pawn needs support, he can pick it up with the pawn or bring the king to f5. So he's actually in a technically lost position. He's checking his brain to find any possible solution. Sosa Van Forest ended in a draw as expected, and Chopra defeated Praf as expected. Let's see how the game finished. He did do f6, and he went into this attacking endgame, and as we expected, there was a mating net in the end. King takes g5. Let me check here. We could probably finish him off by, which is the way to finish our opponent off here, maybe with check, with the idea rook takes a7 mate, and if he goes here we can probably check him with the knight first, bring him up, and then mate him with the rook. So this is not exactly the sequence I had seen, but it's another one with the two rooks and the knight against the lone king. So well done Chopra, finishing on a very respectable 7 out of 9. This 7 out of 9 of Chopra will for sure give him a high ranking in the scores. 27.05 performance, plus 10, and he only lost yesterday to the probably eventual winner Erigaisi. So that was very well played by Chopra. Vogel also defeated Praf. The final position is quite funny. He attacked him in the center, and then he calculated very precisely this forced endgame where he exchanges everything, king f2, g4, and the game is lost because the king is in the square of the pawn. So to know that, we advance the pawn in our heads and do a square. It's called the rule of the square. When he advances the pawn, as long as the king can enter the square, the king stops the pawn. And the thing is, can the black king capture these pawns here? The answer is no. So this would go more or less like this. Our king would run over to stop the pawn. We'd get there just in time. And then when the king comes in to capture our own pawns, as soon as he captures the pawn which is at the back, we advance the pawn in the front. And of course they could have played out to here, but they all know that here, queen to d4 followed by queen to g1, and the game is over. So this is a very quick and fast calculation for both grandmasters, and obviously Praf decided to call it today. So a very good win by Vogel at the end. That result leaves Vogel with a very respectable 7 out of 9. And with this win, he definitely crosses the 2600 performance, but doesn't get a Grandmaster norm because he has only played with 2 Grandmasters. And if it hasn't changed, the rule was 3 Grandmasters for the Grandmaster norm. If that hasn't changed, then that is the situation. But in any case, a very respectable performance by Vogel. Okay, now we'll see some other results afterwards. Pichot-Zuzina will end in a draw, most probably. And the rest of the games will be finishing more or less as expected. So basically we're focusing on these two games. Will Warmerdam and will Chigaev seal the wins? Let's see. Rook d5, f3, rook d2. So he provoked the advance of the pawn so that maybe he could cross with the king. So now I expect g5 or I expect king to f6. I think king to f6 is the move I do. Hopefully it's okay. Rook to f2, rook to f4. I think this is still more than okay. I'm playing king to f5, king to g4, or king to f5, g4, g3. And the thing is, even if the king comes over here, it's not really doing much here, because you can't really get the rook out. Maybe we could get the rook out here.
Beauty prize Dardha.
Dardha, okay. So the beauty prize has been assigned to Daniel Dardha for his win, magnificent win against Alexenko, the game where he played, sacrificed the piece and then played e4. So that is confirmed, although there were 3 or 4 candidates. This would not be so easy to win, because now I'm a bit mixed up with this option here, so we'd have to play a bit carefully here. Maybe it's time against king to f2. Maybe it's time to play g5 here and try and connect the pawns. But white can play h3, and now maybe this is a better moment to bring the king up. But it's still unclear, this. This is not totally clear. But yeah, this should be winning. Should be winning. Going king g3. Maybe the best move is king f1 to check here. But even this should be a win. We drop back with the rook. If he blocks with the king, we go for the b pawn. And if he blocks with the, and if he gives a check, I think we put the king here. We have to be careful here. This might not be so easy now, because if I go for the pawn, he captures this one, I capture this one, this might be a draw. So this is not so easy. This move, rook d5, f3, rook f2, this has been a good move. And actually Chigaev, he's thinking, he's on the think now. So maybe this has been a good move by, I'm sure there's a way to win here, but rook endings are never so simple. The thing is, when he attacks my pawn on f2, I don't really want to put my rook on f4, because the rook is that's the square for my king. So I'm wondering if here, instead of f3, maybe we could have played king here, take, and now f3. He has to play here. Maybe we're not winning anymore here, because white also has a passed pawn. So it wasn't easy. Okay, so let's suppose that f3 is the best move. He played rook to f2. He played king f6. Okay. So now I'm expecting either rook f2 or rook d3. I think rook f2 is important, but then I'm seeing that also we can play rook, instead of playing king to rook to f4, we can play rook to here. So if he comes here or here, we capture the pawn. And if he comes to c2, then we progress with the king. Yes, this is the idea. Not rook to f4 check, but rook to e3 check. This is the best move here. Yes, 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 yes. So instead of playing rook to f2, he might play rook to d3, but then we can play rook to f4 because we push the pawn to the end. And here he loses a massive amount of time. And we can even play like this, drop back, and if he captures, then we just transpose to the ending. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he wins by 3 tempi. Yeah, Chigev has the event sealed up. Unless he makes a mistake big time, the game is his. Unless he messes up big time, the game is his. Let's see how this is played out. So King F6, Dardha is playing. This was my analysis. So we'll leave Dardha to play, but yes, against Rook F2 it's Rook E3, and against Rook D3 it's Rook F4. And against King D3, I think we will play King to F5, and then King to F4. So yeah, this is now a technical win. Alexenko Warmerdam. He's finding ways to complicate the position. Here he gave the pawn. And it seems that this might be a mistake, although it's hard to see why this would be a bad move because it looks very good. Knight to D1. Okay. So we're hitting the queen. And he doesn't want to lose the protection of this pawn, so the normal moves would be queen to D2 or queen to D1. And then what's wrong? Maybe the thing is that the knight protects. What's the key idea here? Could it be this check, or maybe this check here? Could it be this? I don't think so. No, this doesn't seem good at all. So what's the deal here then? Knight to D1, good move. Black has queen to D2 here. What's the deal? Maybe E5 is the move. I don't think so. Let's see what he played. He played queen to D2. So let's see. This is a key position. I mean, Warmerdam, he has an extra pawn on B that's running down the board. His knight is protected. His bishop coordinates with the knight. The bishop on F1 is awful. This is a model game of dark square domination and Kalashnikov style positions. So anyone should learn and understand how to play with these model games. So why is the computer giving an option for Alexenko here? Only move knight F2. What's so special about this move here? B3, E5. Okay. And there's some sort of perpetual on the dark squares, but it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe. Even B2 here. Take. It's double on E4. So there are some minor chances if he plays knight to F2, which he's just done, with the idea B3, E5. But Alexenko is walking on very thin grass here. Very thin grass. Although the computer is holding this position, I really think that black has a very good chance to win. First of all, he improves his knights and prevents the E5 move. So what to do now? Now the only move to continue fighting is queen to B6, hitting the bishop and controlling the pawn from behind. This is a move that I think Alexenko will find. So let's see if he finds it. He's treading on very thin ice here, very thin ice. If he makes just one mistake, that pawn gets to the queen. And also, the black knight is heading to E5. So even if he's able to stop the pawn, the pressure of black's pieces is becoming very, very strong. I mean, look at the knight on F2 and the bishop on C1. Okay, he played queen B6. He found the good move, hitting the bishop. So Alexenko defending very well. I seem to remember he was quite a good rapid and blitz player. and he doesn't stand up nearly at any moment in the game. Physically, he's very good. He's able to maintain the concentration, the 4 hours, which is unbelievable. Something I've never been able to do. But it's something that I've seen very good players do. They are very well prepared. So he played. Let's jump to this Chigaev game, just in case it finishes at any moment now. So he played check on e3, and he abandoned the pawn on f3, always playing actively. King f5, capture, king g4. Now the king is cut off horizontally, not vertically but horizontally, so he has to go back. And now the thing is, how does white win this position? How does black win? Because we can get the king here, but we can't cross. So the only chance is to get the king here to h3, play g4, play g3, and then bring the king near and promote the pawn. Is this possible? Let's see. King to e4, king to h3. And now what to do? Rook to f2, g4. And now king to f4. Highly difficult. g3 is not possible, but this is like a zugzwang position. As soon as the king moves, we play g3. So maybe just to move with the rook, it would be enough to suffice. But he gets this move in. Okay, we have to check from behind. We have to play rook to b8. Then make the check, and then play g3. So this is a technical win, but not so easy. Dardha, in fact, has played this ending very well, making all sorts of difficult tricks for his opponent. So in the end, he will lose, most probably, but his defense has been stoic, very, very stoic defense. Let's go back to Warmerdam. Queen d6, c5, queen takes, pawn takes. Now things are different, because now anything can happen. This pawn is also very strong. I'm not sure if black has messed up the win here. Erigaisi must be very happy. And Chigaev as well. Chigaev and Erigaisi, they have 7.5, and their main threat is, well, Chigaev, if he wins, of course, but Erigaisi must be super happy. Imagine they both draw, Yuffa's draw, he'll win the tournament outright. So his draw in 4 moves will be the best move of the tournament. Knight to d6. Ooh, now this might be a turnaround. Now he's threatening to advance this pawn and win the game. Wow, Alexenko has just won the game. Wow, what a defense. What a turnaround. This is superb defensive play by Alexenko. So this is a model game for black, except for the last moves. Wow. b3, knight to d3. The pawn goes no further. And this pawn is now going to cost the piece. Wow. Unbelievable. Of course, there's still drawing chances because there's very little material. It will be bishop and knight and 3 pawns against bishop and 4 pawns. And obviously Alexenko knows how to do the mate with bishop and knight, but we could eventually see something like that. Wow. Knight to d3 he'll play now. What a turnaround. What an unbelievable turnaround. So we have 2 really interesting endings to figure out. And as they decide the tournament, we're going to be here until the end. Chigaev is the one that looks to finish earlier. g4, king f4. And now it figures that Chigaev will play rook to b8 to check on f8 and get the king out of the way and try and progress the king to g2. This is the most probable situation. This is going to be a win, yeah? So let's go back. So if he finds, he played rook to b8 very well. Now he has to check here, get the king out of the way, and force d3, and then he wins. So this could be a situation where Dardha is about to resign, and Chigaev will take down the result. Okay, let's check. I don't think there's blitz tie breaks, but I'm going to find out now. This last round is quite unbelievable. Let me check if there's blitz tie breaks. Let's go to the page and look at the tie breaks. Rules and regulations. Brazilian Buchholz. No tiebreakers. Oh, if there's a tie in all tiebreakers, then there will be a tie break. But first of all, they'll be using the 3 tie breaks. So it's very unlikely there will be a game tie break. It will be mostly rook b8, king e3, check. And now I'm wondering, if he plays king to f2, check, take, 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 and take, and this is a win. And if he goes back to f4, I think we can also play this move. And this should be a win as well, because we're also capturing the second pawn. So is this a moment? Is this a decisive moment? Oh, he didn't play king. He didn't play rook to e2. He played rook to f8 check. Okay, this is also a win, because king e3, f2, take, 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 and he promotes. So, as far as I see, Dardha has lost, Maxim Chigaev has won. So we only have one major game left, which is Alexenko Warmerdam, which has had a tremendous turnaround, and now the only player to win would be Alexenko. And although it's not easy, I have to believe that with an extra piece and 3 pawns still on the board, his chances of winning are still very good. He will play his king towards the center, probably to d4, and then try and force the exchange of one of the pieces, round up the b3 pawn, and go for the win. So let's see how this finishes, and of course we'll wrap up the commentary as soon as this game is over, but I think we'll stay here to see how Alexenko wins. So going back to chess results, with these results, if Alexenko wins and having won Chigaev, we have a three-way tie for the first place between Erigaisi 7.5, Alexenko 7.5, and Chigaev 7.5. I don't think Chigaev can capture Erigaisi or Alexenko in the tie breaks, but it's going to be very close between Erigaisi and Alexenko. There's only half a point difference in tie break, so it would be unbelievable if Alexenko wins. He just came from winning Alicante. That would be two wins in a row. Would be unbelievable. Knight to b2. If bishop f1, Alexenko will hit the bishop, and when it goes back, will centralize the bishop and win the pawn. So, oh, now he might win the pawn straight out. King f2, bishop b5, bishop to d5, and the pawn goes. Yep, king to f2. Maybe the best chance is bishop to b5, bishop to c, bishop d5, bishop c6. Maybe that's the best chance. Take, take, because one detail is that the white pawn promotes in black square, and our bishop is white. So if this pawn goes for the pawn of b3, and Warmerdam can exchange one of these 2 pawns for the g pawn, then his chances of a draw are very high. Because he can sacrifice his bishop for the last pawn as it promotes him white square, in black square. But of course, Alexenko is very aware of this, and he might not try and foresee this variation. For example, bishop to b5, bishop c6. Let's see if there's a good move intermediate here. Oh, he has this check. This is very nice. Take here. If he takes, there's the check and win. And if he takes here, check, here, king here, 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 take, here, 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 take, here, take, here, here, and win. So all these variations win. So he played bishop c6. Now he has to find knight to c4. This is probably also winning. And king to e3. This should be winning as well. I mean, this must be winning as well. Yeah, this must be winning as well. I think he has several ways of winning. He exchanged, and now he's going to play king to e3. Yeah. King to c5. The thing is, he can't go with his king on the king side, because then the king goes here and here. And this is a well-known draw. Check, king d2, king c3, check, king b4, and the knight can't escape from the roundabouts of the king. So this is a well-known draw. So what he has to do is, first of all, round up this pawn here. So let's see how he does this. He'll play this. Maybe h4 would be a good move to put, because then when he plays g5, we have e5 winning. So h4 would be a good move to introduce. So maybe the move of black here is h4 to block the pawns. But then king d3, king c5, and king c3 wins the pawn. I think he has to try h4. Warmerdam has to try h4 and see what happens. It's a very exciting ending he's played. He played king c5. But now I think the move is king d3. Or even h4. And if king b4, king d3, king a3, king c3. King a2. But is this knight c4? There could be a zugzwang there. Yeah. So look at this. h4. King b4, king d3, king a3, king c3, king a2, knight c4, zugzwang. If he moves his king, you eat the pawn. If he plays b2, you win the pawn. And if he plays, for example, g5, there are several ways to win, but I like especially this one here. This is a very nice way of winning. So he can win several times there. Alexenko, let's see what he does. If he plays h4, he will demonstrate excellent technique. g3 would also be good. Of course, king d3. He played h4. Wow. Go, Alexenko. Go. That demonstrates excellent technique. So he's seen that the king goes to a3 and it's zugzwang. And this way he gets a favorable ending on the king's side. Well played, Alexenko. Very well played. Go, Alexenko. Yeah, Warmerdam is in big trouble now. He played. He has to wait. He has to wait. But now, how is the way to win? Should I go for the pawn? Or should I put the knight on d3 so that he can't progress? Knight to d3 is very nice, because if king e6, then check and takes the pawn. Yeah, I think knight d3 would be a very precise move. But now Alexenko is going to use his time. He is in no rush. He will take his time, keep his nerves under control. And this was an unbelievable turnaround for Warmerdam. This is a lesson for any aspiring player. You show this game, you see, look, he's completely winning, or at least much better, and he loses his control and throws away the game in the last minutes, losing the win and maybe for 4,000 or 5,000 euros. This is what you have to show when one of your kids or one of your students blotches up a game. You just point to this one here or many others, and everyone gets to know the harsh reality of losing a chess game in the last round. Now he's going for the last chances. I think it's a good chance. Exchange all the pieces you can, but of course Alexenko is just going to keep his pawns. Now f5 is nearly no longer works. Pawn takes the draw. He'll play king to e6. And now what is the way to win? Just to play knight d3. Knight to d3, king f7, king c3, king g6, king takes b3. And there's no way of going through. Yeah, this is very nice actually. King knight d3, king here, king here, king here, take, and now there's no way to get through with the king. And if you play here, I play e5, f4, take. No, I just play e6 here and then bring the king. Very nice, excellent technique. In a not so obvious way to win. So this has been, so not only Alexenko has won, that he's or even did it with an excellent technique. Very well played. Very well played. Excellent technique. So let's see if Max continues playing or at some point decides to give up. He's fighting till the end, which I think is the correct decision. Results are coming in. Ooh, Kaganamat defeated Diego Macias. Wow. He couldn't overcome yesterday's loss, it seems. Wow, nice. Well played. Okay, king to d6. He's still taking his time here. I think it's time to go king to c3, but he's working it out. But I think it's okay. Let's say king to c3. Take. And now f5. Now this is another ending which is lost. You put the knight behind, put the pawn on h5, and this is lost. You can't capture the knight because the pawn runs, so this is lost as well. So king c3, king e6, and now in principle this should be lost. I'm not sure what he's trying, but this should be lost by now. In any case, they're very low on time, so we'll stay till the end and then we'll wrap it all up. and already prepare the way home, which is also very important. Have a quick lunch. Take. Oh, he exchanged pawns. Now this is surprising. It should still be winning, but with the H pawn now. Take. H4. Let's see. H4. Take. Take. Bring the king. Okay. H3. Bring the king. H2. Knight to F2. Okay. And then we'll go with the king. We'll pick up the pawn, and then we'll win the ending. Nice. So well calculated. Just by one tempo, but it's well calculated. If he hadn't won by one tempo, he had other ways to win as well. But this was a forced variation. Take, take, and now he'll play king c4, h3, king d4, h2, knight f2, and that will be the moment that Warmerdam will probably resign. So he calculated the forced win, but even if this win was not possible, he for sure would. He had other options to win as well. He just decided to calculate this one. This would be the moment that Warmerdam has to resign, when he plays knight to f2. Now, top level players should resign now, because it's clear that the king is coming to eat this pawn, and then he'll win the ending. So it's time to resign. Time to resign. We're finishing. The last moments. You want to come in for the last moments?
Yeah, sure.
The game is finished. He's about to resign.
Yeah, Alexenko's gonna win.
But did you see the comeback? It was unbelievable. Look, he just resigned.
Yeah.
Did you see what happened? So we left it here.
Yeah, black was better.
Black was better.
But then he decided to capture the pawn on b3, give c5 and e5. I didn't like it so
It's
much.
probably still okay here, but already not so okay.
Yeah.
But look at the turnaround.
It should be drawish.
Look at the turnaround.
Uh-huh.
Here something went very wrong.
Oh my god.
Very wrong. Now
Oh, this is probably
boom,
draw.
and now he's lost.
But why not bishop c8 instead of...
Bishop c8 is a draw.
Okay, 96. So
96. I'm not sure what happened.
oh,
And now he's lost. And the
Yes.
the technique to win this
yeah,
has been perfect.
yeah,
Perfect. The technique, perfect. There was the white pawn is on black. There was some perfect technique.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Of course, Alexenko is very strong
Top level technique.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Okay, so who is going to be champion?
So-
it's not clear, no?
So we
Next
have
Alexenko.
to wait. We have to wait
Yeah,
because
because Alexenko had slightly worse.
only half a point less.
Yes.
But Miguel, you are very experienced.
well, only
you
half a
know.
point before this round, but
Now you get
today
one
he gets half
one-
point more.
One half point more because he wins
Yeah.
and Eddie guys he draws.
Yeah.
But it's still not so much. I normally think the Buchholz is locked over 3 points.
Uh-huh.
2 points is more or less locked. 1 point,
Yeah.
come on. 1
I like
point.
more progressive, you know.
Progressive is okay as well.
I think it's more fair somehow. In Buchholz, you depend on results of third players. In progressive, if you are all the time leading,
Then you should be.
You win the
You're playing against the better players in the.
yeah.
Yeah.
In this case, Alexenko would win by progressive, but in Buchholz, not so clear. Yeah.
Alexenko just won in Alicante.
Yeah.
If he wins here, do you know him personally? Have you played against Alexenko?
No, no.
He's of a different generation,
He's
no?
too young. Yeah.
But he was over 2,700, yeah?
I'm not sure.
But he
I
played.
know
he
he's a
played the
nice guy.
candidates.
He's a nice guy.
He played the candidates.
He's
last.
living in Valencia, you know.
Oh, he's living here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But
He's living
this
in
flag is Austria.
Austria, yeah. He's playing.
Okay,
for
let's
Austria.
check then.
There
I think he crossed 2,700 at some point.
There are many Russian players which they didn't agree with the war that
Yeah.
they left the country.
Yeah.
Uh,
he has crossed 2,700.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you maybe can
Even maybe here.
delete blitz and to see it more clear.
Yeah.
Delete this. Okay, so
So he crossed here
yeah,
2750.
he was, yeah, okay.
20. So he's a very strong. He's had a small dip here,
Yeah,
but yeah, he's a very strong player. Very strong. When you play open tournaments,
yeah.
maybe it's not so easy to maintain
He
2700.
was fighting a lot in this tournament, so he deserves a good place.
Okay, so For those of you who have followed, I still got about 20 or 30 people following me there in the chat.
Okay.
Thanks a lot for joining us every day. Miguel, thank you very much for coming along and saying hello. And we'll see you maybe next year.
Yeah.
Maybe even here if you decide to come. And good games, nice games.
Yeah.
But we can't say who's going to win because we have to wait for the tie breaks. So,
okay, thank you so much. And see you next
goodbye,
time.
Miguel.
Thanks.
Thanks
Bye,
a lot.
Michael.
I'm going to wrap up and see you in a minute. Okay. Thanks a lot for joining me. Let's wrap up.
This is mine.
Yeah. 5 minutes and I'll be with you. Let's wrap up everything here and see you next time.